Welcome to The Downside. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. This is a podcast. I'm working on getting this intro to let people know, for the first-time listeners, this is a place, and for the guests to understand the premise, this is a place where you can be negative, you can complain, you can bitch, you can moan about your co-host taking a sip during the big intro part right by the mic. You brought the coffee to the mic as if you wanted to really ASMR it.
I heard an ice shake.
They gave me a lot of ice. Too much ice they gave me in this coffee.
You walked up and you were like, more ice.
Yeah.
I really want to piss off my co-host.
So for first-time listeners, it's like every other podcast, but this one we encourage people to be negative, not have to be like, oh, but I am thankful for that thing. No, you're not. You're putting on a show.
Well, we also
to make
do that
yourself
at the
look
end,
better.
though.
At the end, we do a segment where we say what we're thankful for. Thank you.
We do that.
I am here with my co-host.
You're allowed one.
Yes, exactly. Russell Daniels.
Hi.
Who just got back from Hawaii.
Hawaii.
You were doing an accent of like a local Hawaiian.
No.
Earlier.
Shut up. No, I wasn't.
Wow, we're starting off with the cancellations
I
like
know.
immediately.
Well, that's what he does. It's his bit.
And we're here with our guest.
Yeah.
A magician, illusionist, comedian,
Mentalist.
mentalist,
Yeah, all the above.
Matt the Knife.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
I want to start out with a complaint of my own, and then we'll get to all your shit. It's been a while. We just had a little bit of time off. Mm-hmm. So if I repeat a story, guys, I apologize. I was on 8th Avenue, which 8th Avenue Midtown is actually in my money, one of the scarier parts of New York. I don't know what it is. I think it's just like
We're talking Penn Station through like 40. That's
Penn Station through like 50th. I'm usually walking. And I think it's because it's like the dregs of Times Square, or like it's like you have the tourists aren't fully there, or that's where the dumb tourists are. So I was walking down 8th Street, and there was a man, and he looked like he'd been homeless for a while, which is fine. But he only had a nub on one leg,
okay,
and it was like sticking out on a thing. And he sees me, and he like looks at me like this, and he starts rolling at me, trying to touch his nub, trying to hit me with his nub. And like for the first time, I thought it was
I'm
just
pretty sure that's good luck.
I thought it was like an unfortunate, like he bumped into me, but I swear he was looking like this.
He wasn't saying anything.
Yeah, and he was like doing this.
His energy
was shifting back and forth.
Oh no.
And
he conveyed all he needed to.
And I'm sure I could have, it was one of those deers in headlights moments. I had not prepared myself for this. I'm sure I could have just like turned around, but instead I truly felt trapped.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I immediately, all I saw was this TikTok. Someone starts recording right here. Get the fuck away from me with your nub.
Yeah.
And that's all that goes online, and they don't see the context of it.
I think there's a world somewhere between you yelling at him, screaming at him, and you just fully allowing him to touch you with the nub. I don't think there's somewhere in between there that you could have,
Yes, if I had the moment to sit down in his chair, maybe.
But why
if I
were
could
you
have said,
cornered? You're on 8th Avenue.
Second?
It's very big. Were you in? Where were you?
I think I was about to cross the street.
I don't mean to be rude, but I bet you could outrun him.
Sure.
Yeah. But what happened?
Roll him, outrun him. I'm sure I could do anything.
What happened?
He like kept doing it, and then I
kept doing it. Wait, you
going
were
forward,
you
backwards,
stationary,
forward, back.
not moving?
I was about to cross the street, and in my mind, it's like my mind shut down. I couldn't take a left. I had to go this way.
Okay.
And
he was coming at you.
Yeah.
And you, okay.
So I'm about to. Do you understand the You want to draw it out for you?
I'm just saying, mechanically, couldn't you wait till the last minute till he's right next to you, and then?
And to do basketball.
Listen,
sure.
I've been in enough relationships to know. I think he just wants you to like empathetically listen.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And understand where he's coming from emotionally.
Not question the logistics.
He doesn't need you to solve the problem right now.
You're right.
You're right. I could have done better.
So what happened? So he gets to you.
I ended up like getting away a little bit, and I think I was like, "Fuck, get the fuck."
So you didn't fully say it. Get the fuck away from me.
I didn't know. I didn't fully say it. I could have said, "Get the fuck out of here! What a cool nub!"
Oh,
that could have been where it was going.
Think you need to comment on the nub.
And I don't mind the nub. To be clear, I have a feeling that our listeners have more nubs than the average podcast listener. because this is the downside. It's not about the nub.
Yeah.
It was just
You were being chased.
Yes, and
You were being chased. It's scary to be chased by anyone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But he didn't say anything.
No, the look was just like
He was mischievous.
he was mischievous.
Yeah.
And
This is the weirdest couples counseling session I've ever been called in for.
it's my dream to get a couple. Maybe that's how we'll do it. They'll be the guests, but there'll be a full session. So that's me.
I've just been replaced. That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you do tricks, asshole.
Here's a better idea
But
for a
do you
guest.
heal? Do you heal?
And Russell, you doing okay? Hawaii was good.
Hawaii was great. You know, it was just what I needed. Just 4.5 days, not doing a show, laying out, sleeping.
Are you just beaching every day?
Beach pool, some walks? You know,
Yeah.
The thing was, you know, I only went off the resort one time. I want to
It
go.
was a good resort.
It was good. Definitely great. But it was such a short amount of time. It takes so long to get to Hawaii. That's the thing.
You really got to want it.
I would when I go back, I'll plan like an LA trip around it. So you're flying from LA and doesn't feel the 11-hour flight from here to Honolulu, and then a couple hour layover, and then another 40-minute flight. It's just a long time.
That's what my mother does. She hates the long flight, so she always takes a 2-day layover in LA.
Because I think it's only like 5 or 6 hours from LA.
Yeah, it's not a bad flight
and
from there.
that's not bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would plan it that way because it's just a long flight if you're only there for like.
I used to do the same
less than
thing when
5
I was
days.
flying out to China a lot, is like stop somewhere on the way. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it's like a 23, 24-hour flight with layovers.
No, that's
Yeah, you really got to want to go.
Yeah. But yeah, it was beautiful, perfect. I felt like coming back this weekend and doing the shows, I felt so much better and so much
He's in
like.
Titanic.
So yeah, it was a really nice trip. You know, I feel bad. Sometimes you go to those places. It happened when I went to Bora Bora too, where I don't know if it's the resorts. They tell people to say the phrases over and over again, like the mahalo, like, you know, and you're like, do people in Hawaii say this much, or is it the resort has?
What do you
been
mean they're
trained-
telling you to say, like, every time they see you, they go,
They're
mahalo?
like, mahalo, and then they start and end everything and interaction with that. And on
Yeah.
the airline, Hawaiian Airlines, they're like mahalo every, and you're a little like. So maybe I'm wrong. Like I don't want to like
Like you never actually hear New
Hawaii,
Yorkers say
but I'm like,
I'm walking
yeah,
here.
I'm walking here. Like every
Can you imagine you go to a New York resort and they go, hey, forget about it.
Hey, your family.
The gym is this way. Hey, forget about it. Yeah, so I couldn't tell if that's like if it's really said that much or if it's like a weird.
I like that
thing.
idea of whole New York resort experience.
Yeah.
If you took over New York, and in Vegas, it would be a totally different experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there'd just be a guy with a nub chasing everybody around the
oh
lobby.
my God.
Yeah.
And it would be like an actor with a full foot, but they added a fake nub over, and then we get in trouble.
That's how
so
you get in trouble. That's how you get in trouble.
because I had a bit. It's about when you fly Hawaiian Airlines, they play a video that's like
Okay.
welcoming you to the island.
Yes,
and my
yes.
joke was they need a video for the plane right back to New York City.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
Well, they did. They played the same
made your
video.
choices.
They played the same video again, and I was like, I don't want to see this now. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, when you're leaving
like
Hawaii?
we were leaving Hawaii, and they were like,
Here's what you
It's like
missed.
this like propaganda
Like,
thing, like
as-
to enjoy
as you're
Hawaii. And you're
landing.
like, I already did it. I don't want to see this again. I'm going back. You know, like, yeah. But yeah, great trip.
As you look out the window and part of the city is on fire, you're like, oh, the riots. Nice.
Now-
I'm home.
I feel like you must travel, or it's just your industry.
Yeah.
Because it's not completely bound by language differences.
Yeah.
You're doing shows with no talking.
So
Sometimes.
in anywhere where they speak English, which is like U.S., Canada, England, like Germany, because they all speak English, so you can just do it. So like certain places, and I'm thought of on stage is usually, so I have kind of two main shows that I do, and one is I call like a standard show, and one is sort of a scary show. It's like based in horror stuff.
Yeah.
But that one aside, so we'll push that one off because that one I only really do in the U.S. Or the U.K. But the other stuff, so here I'm often thought of as funny and very animated and things when I'm on stage for my standard show. But it's weird, like, so if I go to like Japan, I'm not. because I don't speak the language and I don't try to convey. And humor is different. Like
Of
so, like in
course.
China, like I was doing this thing with Guinness, this TV shoot out in Beijing. And before we went on, they were like, "Oh my God, you're so funny when you're in English." I was like, "Oh, thanks." They're like, "So we want you to be funny in China," and I was like, "Okay." And they were like, So, and I was doing this escape. I was breaking this Guinness World Record, and it was this underwater escape thing. And you can die if you fuck it up. So they were like, so I'm like mentally, like genuinely mentally preparing. Like, okay, I want to do this, and I don't want to die. And this is gonna be great. Okay, this is gonna be really good. And we had, tens of millions of viewers, and we were going to do it live for a portion of it, and so it was like it's kind of a big deal. Yeah. And we had they had their like the Chinese Olympic swim team were literally my rescue divers, and so I was like, okay, like we're in this Olympic training pool that they just, so it's a serious thing, multi-camera shoot where underwater camera. So it's a lot of money put into this. Like you got to understand, like you guys have done TV here in the States, like that if you're doing like a live studio audience, it's not very big. It's I mean, like I remember like Chelsea Lately's show was Chelsea Handler's show was like 40 people, if like a classroom.
Yeah.
And they go up to like 200-ish, right?
Sure.
So like in China, like their small groups start at like 600 people, and they can go into the thousands in the live audience. You can be like, oh, we have 2,500 people in the live audience tonight.
Yeah.
That just so
I think Corden had 8.
So and one was his mom. No, and so
Not false. Not false.
And so what happens is it was really weird. They had 2 directors, which I don't know how that works to this day, and they did not agree on anything. So they would argue with each other, and what I would do is I would just pick the one idea that I liked better. I'd be like, I think we're going to do that one. And the other guy would kind of pout. And
I like that.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah.
he's got it. And then the next time I'd be like, I think it's his turn.
Yeah.
And so we were doing this thing, and the guy goes, all right, what I want you to do is before you go in, the host is going to ask you, Matt, how do you feel? And we want you to say, I want my mommy. And I went, no. And he goes, it's so funny. And I go, okay. And he goes, Chinese people love this. And I was like, Matthew doesn't.
They love that phrase.
They just like, they love slapstick comedy.
Oh,
so they love
broad, like,
goofy.
Wait,
like
okay,
silly,
Russell, in your mind, what did you think just now? That the phrase "I want my mommy"
Like
is like the
sexually?
comedic slogan of China? It's
I don't
like
know.
that's what she said of China.
Maybe.
I want my
Crazier
mommy.
things have happened. I don't know. Maybe it was a famous
That's-
catchphrase from a
Crazier things have
comedy
happened.
That's
program.
why,
Program.
believe it or not, that is why the Communist Premier always starts every speech with that phrase. That's, I don't know if you know this. This is true. One of my degrees is in political science. That's actually a true fact, and that is what I learned was from my degree. Is that
Yeah.
is the opening line.
That was-
to
that was-
every.
I love-
I
I
think
love
it goes
it.
back to Stalin.
Yeah,
It goes back to
yeah,
Stalin.
yeah.
Like Lenin had the idea, but he didn't institute it.
You fucking idiot!
This is for the ice.
So
Way the
they
intro.
like- they
That is
big,
that
broad-
what you've presented. That is I understand that conundrum on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
But so in your mind,
Yeah.
I imagine this is a good gig.
Oh yeah.
This is a good
Oh
gig.
yeah. This was.
Are they in charge? Are you like
So
where
it's
do you
really
stand?
weird. So, yeah, it's really weird. So like TV out there, it's CCTV, which is funny because they think it stands for closed captioning television, but that's their television. It's called CCTV, so it's Chinese television, and it's technically owned by the military. So it's a government
I say that
channel.
line.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Yes, I want my mommy.
And so they no, that was a hard line for me. I was like,
So you did say it, though.
No, I said no. I said no, and he was like, you need to. And I was like, it's not gonna. And so like right before the cameras were about to go live, like the
You
audience
have a
is
lot
like,
of power right there because what
That's
are
the
they
thing. I was
gonna do?
like, "What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
I was like,
You wanna do it underwater?
So we kind of went back and forth like 3 times, and I went, "It's okay. I can just walk." I was like, I just don't have to do this. And the other thing was they had already paid me in advance, so I was like, well, I want to do this, but I do have the money. And I do definitely, in this moment, like, this was the wrong time to renegotiate.
Yes. Yes.
You
We
really
both
have
would
no
have said it
chips.
so quickly. We both would. Me quicker than you. I would have been like, let's find a way. If this, there's no
Let's
way to
make
make
it
it work. really.
The first time I ever
But
said
maybe undercutting it a little.
I was shooting a TV show. Yeah, would you do it? How would you do it? Let's see if you had to. If you had to do it,
I don't think there's a
You're
way
gonna-
to do it.
but, like, are you
without doing it big.
But
I
are you-
don't think.
So are you gonna go? I want my mommy. Because that's what I do. I do
what
a
I
short.
was thinking. I
thought
was
you'd be
thinking like really
I
small.
like how you
I want my mommy. That's exactly how you do it.
I like how you demurred to it too. Like
Yeah.
there was a physicality for both of you. It was nice. So yeah, that was a hard line. I said no. They were very disappointed, and later they were like, after the shoot went great, and it was awesome, and the audience was great. And I went back many times after that doing more television because of it. That was the first time I worked out there, and But I remember afterwards, the director was like quietly to me, privately in the green room, was like, "You could have been funny." Like you had your chance. Now you're just serious. But so that's the thing is, so to your question, like it's weird, like in Japan and China and a lot of other places, like in Europe and things, like they think I'm maybe a serious performer because I just know that if you can't be comedically well timed, it doesn't really, to me at least, it doesn't really matter how good the joke is. Like it's you miss something with it, and I'd rather just not even try. So yeah, I'm usually just not funny.
If you could be, because I feel like with magic, again, I love magic, so
Awesome.
I don't know a lot about
That's
the
why
world.
I'm
But
here.
I went to a summer camp.
Did you?
I went to and it was like it was the only time there was there was magic teachers there. So there were like two real magicians.
You know they have magic summer camps.
And I wish I could have got. I wish I had. But they I bought the first 2 Tarbell books.
Oh, yeah.
And I got really into.
Yeah.
But it was. I feel like with magic.
The 4 people that are listening to this that understand that are like Tarbell, and the other people are like, "What is he talking about?"
You could have just said the 4 people that are listening to this. But no, don't worry. But I feel like there's cool.
One of them is Cordon's mom.
Yeah. Cool, sexy, or funny.
Oh my God. So this actually is one of the opening things that I wanted to complain about.
Oh, please.
So I believe that magic suffers from itself. Your problem is that most people, when they think of magic, think of like the flamboyant Vegas style or the kind of like creepy grandpa. And and there's a few that are kind of like the cool sexy, but those are like the minority, right?
Yeah.
And so you and I'm not flamboyant style. I hope I'm not creepy, except in the scary show, but that's like a different kind of creepy. And then
it's not like, am I touching your boob or am I not touching your boob?
You're pretty. It's not that. It's scary, not creepy.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but because of that you're constantly like, when you're being booked, one of the things I would always hear is this, like after a show, the booker would be like, "Wow, you're nothing like what I thought you were going to be. That was really good." And I was like, "That's a weird thing to say. Did you think I was going to suck?" Like, I guess, like, I'm glad that you booked me and I'm glad that you enjoyed it, but that was a weird anticipation that you were like, "Oh wow, it's not what I thought. It was really good."
Yeah.
Like, oh.
People say to me, they go, "That was actually funny," and I'm like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Well, I think people, I don't think maybe they do, but magic show isn't something you go to as regularly as you see like movies or things, so I feel like people sometimes can connect it with something that doesn't end up being cool or fun or interesting. And so same thing with stand-up. People don't always go and they're like, "Oh wow, I thought this was going to be
the problem is right, they don't see it usually at a professional caliber.
Yes.
And the professional caliber they do tend to see are those Vegas style shows. Now there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. I'm not like downing Vegas style shows. It's just not my style show. And so
it's weird. I mean, I went to Vegas last year, and is it considered the magic capital of America?
I would argue it's like the magic capital of the world. Like,
it is a weird
My buddy
place.
used to always say you can't swing a dead cat around your head without hitting a magician in the face in Vegas.
Yeah. It is a
why you'd want to do that, I don't know.
place for an art form to grow.
Yeah.
It is, the shows are weird. They're for like a lot of times the worst like family. I have to perform for Times Square groups, but we're talking family shows and 3 p.m. and 1 p.m. And I just feel like it would make an art form. It's a struggle to like grow something interesting and unique in Vegas. Yeah. Same with stand-up comedy. I mean, it's just like, let me play the theme music. This is The Downside.
You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.
By the way, if you're listening for the first time or you're a big time listener, please join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. Bonus episodes, our live episodes, and exclusive access to my clean comedy special, The Rats Are in Me, patreon.com/downside. Remind me at the end. I need to plug a friend's special, please.
Okay.
He's mine. So, what's your experience with magic? You can be honest.
Yeah.
You're not a Magic fan.
I'm not a Magic fan. I wouldn't probably think of myself as someone who would automatically seek it out, but I could see myself enjoying it. I've seen it. I'm trying to think when I've seen it. I've not probably seen I've not seen a Vegas style. Like, I don't know if I've seen a big professional.
I feel like
Show.
stand-up comedy, there's bubbles and bursts and ways where like magic is part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
magic is like I feel like in my mind as it's like, oh, David Blaine is the guy now, or Chris Angel is the guy now, and then it just kind of goes
Copperfield
away.
before that, Doug Henning before that.
We
Like
talked about the I saw Copperfield show at Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're pals with him, so we don't have to talk about it. But
I don't know him personally. I've met him in passing as an acquaintance, but he's not a friend or
the
anything.
show
Like,
was
I'm not
fucking
gonna.
insane, batshit crazy, weird.
Yeah, like in a good way or bad way. Believe it or not, I have not seen his show in many years, so I don't really even know what it is.
I can remember.
So.
It's basically like it was. First, he's Vegas. He's old, but he's kind of pretending he's younger, and
Yeah.
his back is so stiff that it makes the whole thing feel a little bit off. And the piece is about.
What year was this?
This was last year. And the piece is basically like he was growing famous. He wasn't with his father in his final days.
Okay.
And it sounds like the story even he's presenting
Yeah.
is he was too busy for his dad, which I can sympathize with.
Yeah.
But basically in the story, he goes back in time and he gets a letter from his dad, and he reads a letter that he wrote, his dying dad writing him in theory, which was like, David, you were an incredible son. I know you never visited me while I was shitting my pants with no one around, but you were making magic, and
think we
that's
have talked
what's
about this.
important. And there was a moment where he brought someone on stage to do an illusion whose sister had just died, and the sister wanted to see David Blaine, and so like, well, at least you can see him instead. It was weird, and it was 2 p.m. All of this at 2 p.m.
How many shows
So-
a week do you think he does?
a lot.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's got to be 2 a day, right?
It was just he was
At least.
he was phoning it in. So there was one point where he goes, "Oh no, my father is dying." It's that's what we're talking about. I think every profession, stand-up comedians included, sometimes they overstep and they're like, "Am I a full actor now?" And the answer is usually no.
So, magic is a very tiny community with a lot of very big egos. And many of them can get angry about the littlest things, like to the point where you think cancel culture is a thing. Like, you wouldn't believe it in magic, like for real. So I am going to politely not respond and just say, that is an interesting experience that you had.
Yeah.
So
I'll stick to my own complaints about myself.
Hell yeah.
I can't. I
no,
will.
listen. I'm not trying to
yeah,
get you in
yeah.
trouble.
No.
If you want me to take out the part, you feel you want to take it out.
I'll think about it. I'll
Okay.
Yeah.
Just in case we do a pickup here.
Yeah.
So we're back to the downside. I just badmouthed one of the most famous magicians for about 45 minutes, and I have been requested to not include it
To shut the fuck
in the
up.
episode. Now, I saw you. I feel like you could tell, right?
Yeah.
You could tell, because I saw, with assistant, is that the title we're using?
No. She's a rep. Yeah, she's
Oh,
my
rep.
agent.
Well,
Yeah,
forgive
she's an
me.
agent. Yeah. She's not
When you
an assistant,
adjusted the
she's a-
shirt, I
You're
thought,
like-
you're
you're
a good
like-
agent.
Yeah.
then.
Yeah,
My agent want to
she's
give me a
an
shit. I can
What's
have a
this,
mustard
his
stand on
Girl
my
Friday
goddamn
over
shirt.
here?
Yeah.
But I saw your hand go like this, and I thought, oh
Yeah.
wow, she's laughing real hard at my jokes. But no, I could see soon
Horror.
There,
That
there
was
was
horror.
there was okay,
That was-
so
she was like-
we'd lose this leg of the tour.
Yeah,
because,
that was
he
like
owns.
that was like the night before. Like last night, it was like, these are the things you can't talk about, and I was like, okay. And she was like, no, seriously. And I was like, no, you're right. This is why you're here. This is why we go over these things. Because if I'm left to my own devices, I'll just say whatever I want. And I was like, it's fine though. If anything gets out of hand, like just give me the look. And her expression was just, not only did she give me the look, but I could tell in her mind, this isn't a mentalist. This is just like, I know her. She was like this goddamn early in the conversation.
Well, listen, I notice when you talked about
Yeah, yeah.
China, I didn't
Yeah.
ask your opinion on Taiwan.
That's true.
Do you
That's
understand?
true.
I'm
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit cognizant.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
It's all right. Gianmarco loves
I will.
editing.
How about this? I will make a compromise though. I won't use anybody super famous, but I'm sure before this podcast is out, I will trash talk in vague, like I won't say their names,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll, on
Excellent.
camera.
But
I will-
magic,
Yeah.
it is. I'm sorry to keep comparing it to stand-up comedy. I'm more interested in how different the similarities.
Totally.
It's more about like a niche. It's about an art form that lives off touring and then a couple hubs and theaters. It's fascinating.
The art form I compare it to the most is actually music. I think is the closest to it. But no, I think everything you're saying is right. I don't disagree with any of these statements of how.
But it's smaller.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's smaller.
Smaller than music. Smaller than comedy. Smaller than. I mean, it's bigger than mime. That's about it.
Yes.
You know, it's.
Oh my God.
Another
Don't worry.
crackling. Oh.
No, that's not it. Listen.
Oh.
Okay. So walk me through the beginning of becoming a magician. Were you a theater kid?
No. So one of the things I actually hate too is I do not understand how so many entertainers and people in the industry will just either say yes to anything they're asked to do, or even something they want to do will see us do zero research on.
Sure.
So like we say no to, and I will get to your question, I'm sorry, but we say no to most things that I get, because I just believe that like you kind of have to curate your character and where you're going. That's just, I think it's, and I've done enough TV and I've done a lot of it over the years that kind of like now, like when people like exposure, I'm like, I don't care. I was a question on Jeopardy. Like you're not going to be like, oh yeah, you're going to be bigger than that. I'm sure, it just doesn't matter. So now I really only choose things I like. So like she'll bring things to me, and so my agent brings things to me, and so she really likes your stuff. And so she was like, hey, like I think this guy's really funny. You should do his podcast. Like he asked if you would do the podcast. And normally I'm like, I don't really care for podcasts being on them. It's just a lot of time going out to a place. And
of course, please.
But then, so what happened was,
Talking to me.
But then, so she sent your stuff over. And similarly, I was like, one of my complaints about comedy has been in the last few years, I feel like it's like become everybody's one-man show. Like there's a lot of stand-up tragedy where I'm like, oh man, remember when I used to go to a comedy show and we'd laugh? That was crazy. And I have no problem with like one-man shows and things, but if I go to a comedy club, like I want to see comedy.
Sure.
So she sent me your stuff and I was like, oh, it's really funny. And like really funny, because I'm not a guy who would like, I mean, one, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was. But two, I am a person who will usually not like say bad things about somebody.
Sure.
But I won't say nice things either.
Yeah.
How was the
Respect.
show? That was definitely one I have seen. I have seen shows before, and that ranks as one of them.
Yeah.
So if I actually give a compliment, I mean it. So yeah, but because of that, and then I say, yeah, and she sends over like research. She'll be like, so she'll do some research on it and go like, this is the deal. This is what they're like. So I think it's crazy like when people show up here and they're just like, what is this show about? And I know that they do that. I know people do that. Of
course.
So yeah, I know you are very much a theater kid at heart. I know, for example, she had just shown me a piece where you were just singing your guts out at what appeared to be a comedy show.
I was at Moon Tower Comedy Festival.
This week?
They have something called the Comedy Jam, and full band, and I did Piano Man.
Yeah, I saw.
And man, I really gave it my all.
So I feel bad in telling you I was not a theater kid at all. Like I mean, the closest was right, like when you're in high school and that you take that test of like what you can be when you grow up, right.
Yeah.
And I had done that because I really wanted some direction. It's right before you graduate, and you kind of like, I had no idea what I wanted to do exactly. Like I had a vague idea, but it actually seemed quite impossible. But I wanted to do this one thing. It didn't seem like it was going to happen. So I went and took the test, and they came back, and the thing said, he was like, wow. The guy goes, and this is not me trying to toot my horn because I was not happy about it at the time. He goes, wow, I've never seen this before. And I was like, what do you mean? The guidance counselor goes, it says you'd be good at any job you chose to do. And I was like, that is an incredibly unhelpful test. And he says, well, there is a top.
That sounds like they accidentally put the paper into the shredder. And they came out and they said,
Wow.
I was like, anything like
amazing on
shoemaker,
this.
baker, like all these.
President of the United States.
So he goes,
Have a good day.
there is a top three though. He said, these are the three that you'd be best at. And I said, yeah, tell me. And he says, okay, number one, number one would be if you're taking. Can I take these off? Is that
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
take them off.
Sure.
Okay,
I
cool.
just took it off because
If you're gonna take
bothering
these
my
off, I'm gonna
ears.
take these off.
Oh, sure.
So all right.
I'll keep them on.
So that's okay. You look beautiful.
Yeah.
So in anything you wear. All right. So what happens is they give me this list, and the list is number one, mortician. I was like,
Wow.
I was like, okay, I could do it. And number two, attorney. I was like, that's a bit of a shift. And number three, entertainer. And I remember getting number three and being like, that's bullshit. I was like, I could definitely dress a corpse, but there's no way I'd ever be an entertainer. Like, I was like, that's dumb. Your test sucks. So later when I fell into it through an indirect account. I don't know how much you know about my background, but it's sort of a reapplication of an unusual skill set. So when I was very young,
I was going to ask about this.
So when I was very young, I wanted to work in clandestine services. I was a big reader, still am a big reader. I read the Ian Fleming novels, which James Bond is based on, when I was a kid, and got really into that when I was like 8 or 9, and was like, oh my god, when I grow up, I want to be a spy. And my parents like weirdly supportive, and they were like, okay. And my
And
dad.
do you think you fully understood?
No,
It was like it was the Hollywood version of a spy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. And that was actually that's the real accident, right? So I was like, what can James Bond do? James Bond can cheat at cards and pick pockets, and he can mentally manipulate and read people, and he can pick locks and get restraints.
And a lot of sex.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I mean, if it's my cross to bear. But like at 9, you can't practice that. I mean, maybe you can, and good on you. But no, so that's the thing is that like, so I was like, Mom, Dad, I got to do these things, and they were like really, really good about. Like weirdly good or bad, depending on your perspective, right?
Sure.
About like getting me things. So it was like, so my father was a well-known attorney. He was a defense lawyer, and he would take things in trade. And so like one of the guys he had was like a used book dealer, and the guy had like owed him money. And so what happened was he would get me these like out of print books, like Expert at the Card Table, go ahead and pick them, sharps and flats. So
Yeah.
like these like different like technique style books about, because I was like, this is the stuff that you need to do to be James Bond. And there was like card cheating books and things, and like pickpocketing books and things. And so,
Who can forget the scene where James Bond kills the bad guy by going pick a card, any card, and then shoots him through the dick?
well, no. But so the
he
first,
plays a lot of poker
The
and,
first
like,
novel,
you know.
the very first novel was Casino Royale. It was like the 30th movie, but that's the first novel was Casino Royale, which is about him playing cards. In I think was it Baccarat? But I don't remember. I was 9 when I read it. But he's playing cards.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he has to win. And I was like, it'd make it easier if you could cheat at cards. I was like, I'm just cutting out the middleman. So like these were skill sets that I was just like, oh, that's what I'll do. And so I learned these weird things. Okay. Flash forward, I'm like 14 years old, and I want to start dating, and going out on dates with women can be expensive. And so I had a very tiny allowance, and I needed to get a job. So I got a job, and it was in fast food, and it was terrible. And I decided...
Wait, how old were you here?
like 14?
Is that legal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can work 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's part-time, maximum of 20 hours a week. And the jobs are terrible that you can get. But
There was some video recently on Twitter. Someone was at like a Wendy's and they asked this employee, how old are you? And he was like, 8. And they were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
14 is the
yeah.
cutoff.
14.
16, you can go to like full-time.
I think
but
some
14.
places are trying weirdly to get younger kids.
Yeah.
Like
What's really
Arkansas
crazy is
thing.
there's places where they're like in like poultry factories and things that are very dangerous. This is not a dangerous job.
Yeah.
That said, they did end up putting the wrong cleaner on the floor. And I was working the line, and the owner was like, hurry up, go faster. And I literally was running back and forth. And because the wrong cleaner was on the floor, I slipped and landed on my tailbone, and like my back kind of went out at like 14. And so my dad's response, being an attorney, was like, we're getting, I'll just say, we're getting a KFC. And so I was like, look, I don't
that's
want...
a cool dad. That's a good line.
And I was like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. I was like, I'm just done. I don't want to do this. So I stopped working there. And so I quit, and like it was like 2 weeks later, I was in a like an off-brand Best Buy, like a Best Buy, not a Best Buy.
Yeah.
And I was getting followed around, and I was offended because I think it was like in all black, and I was like a teenager, I was
Sure.
and but I probably wasn't offended the way you guys would be offended. The average person would be like, "How dare you think that if I chose to steal from you?" How dare you think that I would steal from you? Whereas I thought, how dare you think if I chose to steal from you that you would be smart enough to catch me? So I went back 2 days later as a man with a plan, hit him for about $2-3 grand. product, and went, this is better than working. I think I was just following around because, teenager and all black. I mean, I wasn't like a goth kid or anything. It was just, not that there's anything wrong with that. But it was just, I came from an Italian mob lawyer family. Everybody wore all black. Like the line in the family was, oh, why do you guys always wear so much black? Well, as soon as we find a darker color, we'll be sure to wear that.
I like that. Wait, so you were stealing stuff.
Yeah. So it started off as a shoplifting ring. And then, but it was easy and boring. And
What kind of stuff are you stealing?
Whatever we could fence.
And how are you stealing? Like how? Like you're like it's smaller things or?
No. It depends on the product.
Okay, wow.
It was really more about so you fence the how to.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking for.
We live in New York and we need to.
Wait, have you
augment
ever stolen anything in your life?
Well, we talked about this on this podcast. I told you I stole a muffin recently.
Wow.
Right.
You are a monster.
But not really.
I'm gonna go.
And I think I said I'm way too scared.
Yeah.
I've
Well,
twice
when I-
I've
when I
borrowed
stole
a
the
roommate's
muffin,
thing
I
and
paid-
left it in my closet.
I paid over $75 in other food at the same time,
So
and I
that's
just
how you
threw the
justified
muffin
your
in.
theft.
Yeah, that's how I justified it. Yeah.
That's actually is the common theft, especially nowadays with like the automated. You walk up in the grocery store, you have to scan your own food.
Yes.
People are like, I'm going to scan one. Usually it's the opposite. I'm going to scan one muffin, take $75. There's a lot of that.
I definitely get that urge,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
when it's something
'Cause
that
it's
like
easy.
won't scan.
Yeah.
If I do it like 3
Oh,
times,
yeah. And you're like,
I'm
I tried.
I'm like, and no one can accuse. I didn't see. Like in my mind,
Yeah.
I come up with the excuse for the
Sure.
cop.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
what made you good? Tell me the how to. What do I do?
So I had this. Right, it's a reapplication.
We're not condoning theft.
Right. Please, I'm not. This is not an educational seminar. So it was, and like this is out. Like it's like people know. Like I've been on like CNN and the History Channel talking about it. So it's not like I've done stuff for Amazon about this. Like it's not like people are like, oh really? Like
Yeah.
And now I should know. I do have a company now that does like consultations on this. So we do many of the people that we like used to rip off. We now protect.
Let me ask you this:
if
if you found out that your whatever this company is, help them catch you, 14-year-old you.
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that goes like, "Fuck, I'm
No,
the
because
man
then-
now"?
because
No,
he
because if the
invented-
14-year-old me was better,
Than whatever
then
existed at the time.
wouldn't have been a
Damn.
problem.
There's probably still people that can rip off, but they have to adjust. And
I
figure
don't
out-
judge. Like, I really don't. Like, I'm not like, oh, like, there are a lot of guys who are like, quote unquote, reformed, who are like, oh, what I did was so wrong. Like, I don't sit around and be like I don't like stay up at night about it, but I also don't like, it's not like I feel good. It's not like I'm not here trying to brag about it. Like, it's not a thing I really talk about that much unless it's connected to my work. Like, it's not like a thing, but I don't like, also, I don't look back on it and be like, I was so bad. I was like,
Do you identify a part of you as a thief?
like a physical part? Like my esophagus is the thief. The rest
I'm
of me is.
like I'm an actor.
Yeah.
I'm a
No,
a
I guess not. I guess it kind of, there is a little part that thinks grifter. I don't like the term con man. It feels
Yeah,
like
Grifter is a nice.
Yeah, it
it's
feels
a kind
like
of
an
a
artiste.
classic. yeah,
I do think of myself as an artist
Yeah.
in general, and so I do think that if you do anything well enough, it can be an art form. Right?
Sure. So what
and
was your
so-
technique back then?
Well, so hold on. So let me just walk you through it. So what happened was it starts. This isn't Philly complaining. So this what happens is it starts off with the kind of shoplifting thing, and it felt really beneath me, and I didn't really like I don't like theft. And so that, but it did lead into like I don't really remember which came next out of the two, but it was there was card cheating and there was. Pickpocketing, and I ran rings involved me in both of those, and then cons. And that's what I liked was the short and long cons. I really liked, and that's sort of what I identified most with all of the four.
and this is all as a teenager.
Until about 21,
Running rings,
sometime
multiple
between
rings.
20 and 22. Yeah. So what happened was by that time I still wanted to work in espionage. I wanted to be a spook, and so
Wait, is that the cool term for a spy?
Yeah.
A spook?
Because you're a ghost.
Oh,
Yeah, spook. Yeah, if you want to know the term, so like nobody in the CIA calls it the CIA. They call it the company.
Do you
That's
think
what
it's
you say,
because
yeah.
your dad was a lawyer that you were less scared of getting caught?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was absolutely. I mean,
That makes a lot
we
of
kind of like
sense.
laughed at I mean, at the time, it was kind of
Did
like.
he know you were running rings?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, no.
In a way, you got to like
My
have
father to
training
this
wheels.
day like thinks all of this stuff is exaggerated. He's like, that's what he says for like marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and then there are other people that like grew up around me that are like, okay,
They're like, that's where my cufflinks went.
no, I would never. But I'm very serious about this. So I think everybody in life has sort of their own code that they follow, whether it be like spoken or
Absolutely.
unspoken, and we all have our rules that we're like, that's wrong, and other people are like, that's fine. And that code. So one of the things is I would never ever take for anybody who I cared for, who was a friend of mine, and I also like didn't ever take from anybody. And I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I'm altruistic. I just know it would have made me feel guilty, but I didn't like. So it wasn't like a Robin Hood thing, but I wouldn't take from anybody who I thought was nice. So like if it was a mom and pop shop, I was like, I'm not gonna take anything from a mom and pop from like a good person. But like if you're a multinational conglomerate who is destroying the environment, I'm like, oh no, I took $5,000 from you.
Yeah.
Like I don't. Oh, you want to go home and cry about it? Like I don't care. Like you just got a $500,000 fine from the EPA, and you're still dumping.
Take it out of the
things.
CEO's bonus.
Yeah. I just don't feel bad about that. Like I don't.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's no part of me that like feels guilt in that regard.
When you say a short con and a long con, help me understand what's a long con. What are we talking about?
So short would be like something really brief. That would be like maybe like a bar bet. So it'd be like a really you really want a really stupid one. Like in New Orleans, you hear this one all the time where people walk up to you and they'll be like, "This is dumb. This is a dumb example, but you hear it a lot." They walk up and go, "Hey man, I'll bet you $5. I can tell you where you get those shoes." And you go, "Okay, here you
Do
go."
it, Russell.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they pause and they go, "On your feet."
Oh,
You got them on your feet.
Okay.
And then they give you the.
And they go, and look.
Would you give someone $5?
Some people some people laugh. They go,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's a dumb con. But there are better ones that are like bar bets that are like kind of like proposition bets. Where you're like, I bet you I could do this thing. And the trick for like a bar bet is you need to get them to put the money on the table. So you can't be like, if you have the money in the pocket, I've got to be like, give me the $5. Whereas if I'm like, all right, put the money on the table. If you take $5 out or $10 out, $20 out and put it on the bar, and I do the bet, as soon as I win, boom, I'm taking the money. And then it's kind of like whoever has the money. People don't tend to argue you. And also you size up the person. Like you're not going to like pick a guy who's going to punch you in the face. You kind of go,
Well,
no,
that's what I was going to ask. Because
roll
I'm
it.
like, a lot of guys are going to be like, cool, clever answer.
No,
bitch.
Yeah.
a lot less than you think. A lot less
True.
than you think.
A lot of people are people pleasers.
Just one is enough to deter
Listen,
me.
there's
Okay.
the thing is that like, so do you know what con man is short for?
No.
Confidence man.
Did you know that?
Yeah,
I didn't.
It was from here in New York. It was from a newspaper, I think in the 1800s. If you care, I'll get you the dates. But it was there was a guy in Times Square who used to walk up to people and shake their hand and goes, "Excuse me, madam, could I have your confidence?" And then he would tell them the sad story about how, oh my God, basically it is now the con, right? Where it's like, oh, I lost my phone and I mean, it wasn't my phone back then, but I don't have my money.
to
and
travel.
Could you just
Train
spare
fare.
like
That's one of the reasons
$10
he's like,
for
I'm
train
stuck
fare?
under this car.
And-
Please help me.
And
I said-
so many people gave him money that finally, when he was arrested, the newspaper headline was the confidence man caught or captured, or something like that, and that eventually got shortened to con man. But the point is that like it's all about confidence. It's all about having the chutzpah to walk up to somebody and go, "Yeah, I think I can get the money." And so if you don't have that, you can't do this.
Neither of us have that.
Yeah.
No.
That's a trait both of us do not have.
So and that's the thing. So that's the thing that you see a lot with spies, right? Like if you want to work in that, the most important thing is that like charisma element where you can connect and talk with people and you can control a room. And if you don't have that, that's the kind of thing they cannot train. Everything else they can train you in, but that you either have it or you don't. So I was doing this stuff, viewing it as like, oh, okay, well, this is on to the job training for me because I still wanted to do that. Like now I knew what it really was. It wasn't James Bond. It was clandestine services. And so I was looking at how like a spy master runs rings. Like if you have different like individual spy rings, and what you do is you turn people, you make moles, and so I would run them the same way. So I'd run each crew separately.
This is insane.
Yeah, I was running each crew separately, so that way if one of them collapsed or one fell in on themselves, they couldn't bring the rest of my network down. They would just implode individually, and they couldn't tie it back to me.
You're taking a cut of what they all get?
Yeah. I'm training them and taking a cut and selecting people and
In
turning
your
them to the
mind,
cause.
what was going to happen? one day you go home and the Queen of England was sitting there and said, "We'd like to enlist
No,
you.
I went to
We've
college.
heard of your moles."
No, I went to college to work in it. So I was going to
moles.
college. I really.
But when you were applying to college, did you say, "Hey, you should let me in. I run a huge theft organization"?
No, I said, hey, I have good grades and a lot of recommendations. You should let me in. So, like, in my normal day, I was a regular person. Like, so this is one of the problems with magic, right? This is one of my complaints, is that, like, when people meet you as a magician, I mean, it is how I define myself. Like, that is who, like you said, like, in your heart, you're still, like, this theater person, right?
Yeah.
And so you would you say a comedian is secondary?
I change. I vacillate.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes, but in my mind, my conception of what a comedian is that thing.
Yeah. I totally get it.
Yes.
Oftentimes people say one of the old definitions of a magician is like an actor who can perform miracles. You know, so you're playing a part of a miracle worker, you know,
I like
these
that.
mystical things. Yeah, so because you're never really doing it, right? And so that said, for me, I do define myself as a magician now and a mentalist now. Like those are the things. Like when I'm
Which one is better, more prominent for you, mentalist or magician?
when I'm booking it, or like for real,
For real.
mentalist. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah. That's my passion. Out of all of it is mentalism, and another thing called bizarre magic, we can talk about after. That's kind of the scary stuff. It's sort of this like subgenre, but mentalism and that. And your eyes get big on that
Like
one.
all
We'll
comedy
definitely touch
for
that.
magic.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love.
Yeah.
I love all of this.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, that's why we're here, right? So you can learn about this stuff. So what happened was, but just to finish this out, so I always. So even when I was doing the crime stuff, right, in my head I was still viewed as a spy. But when you're meeting people, they kind of, and so yeah, I do define myself. Sorry, I went off. I do define myself as sort of a mentalist magician. I usually say magician because it's just the word that people understand. A lot of people don't know what a mentalist is, and I don't want to have to explain it. Also, like the word mentalism for a mentalist in the UK means a crazy person.
Yeah.
So like I can't even say. You have to be like, I'm a mystery entertainer is often what they'll say.
In my mind, if I'm being honest,
yeah.
mentalist to me sometimes makes me think it's going to be the dull version
Yeah.
of, you saw the number they wrote on the paper.
Absolutely. Which is why I don't like to use that definite. I often don't say mentalist. And for example, like I don't think of myself as an illusionist, because in my mind that's like big boxes sewing people in half, and that's not a thing I do. I find that it's just not for me. I find it boring. And so but I will still say illusionist in our promo, because it's not really about my definition. It's about your definition.
Sure.
It's about conveying that thing. And that we spend a lot of time over the years conveying. Like for the longest time, I wouldn't say comedian. Because I was like, I'm not a comedian. Like what you do, you know, you guys are comedians. I'm not a comedian. I always said, like, there are comedy magicians, but I've always found that they are kind of light on the magic and kind of more heavy on the comedy. And I am like, and it's sort of almost like at times almost like a crutch. Whereas I'm a magician, so you're going to come and you're going to see a lot of magic. And by the way, you're going to laugh a lot, because I would always say I'm a magician who happens to be funny.
Yeah.
But what happened was we would try to explain that in promo, and then people afterwards would go, "You're really funny," and I would go, because the show is really funny, and I would go, "Thanks," and I'd be like, "Yeah, that's why we explain it that way." And they're like, "Why don't you just say you're a comedian?" And I actually thought it was disrespectful to comedians.
Sure.
Is the thing. I was like, well,
I was offended.
But there you go, great,
But-
perfect. That's what I'm aiming
But
for.
I think, again, it's like, why I think it's so interesting. It's like with stand-up comedy and what do the worlds perceive. People say skits all the time.
Yeah.
And it's always the internal joke of like, can we call them sketches?
Yeah.
But it's like, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
gives a fuck.
Yeah.
But it's also like, at some point, maybe someone will do that. There will be a famous show called The Sketch Show.
Yeah.
It's like the way that our internal real vocabulary and how the world just views it and marketing purposes, it's all.
And then there's always a jargon, a lexicon within the industry. So for example, so there are like, what is it, like 13 forms of magic plus the allied arts. So there's like individualizations of them. And then from each one of the, then like we have like terms for each thing and moves, and then like even for like, so like non-magicians, there's a word for non-magicians. It is not muggles, but there is a real word.
What is it?
It's laymen. So, and like sometimes that can be almost like derogatory. Like they're like, oh, they're just a layman. Like they don't get it. But it's also like, you know, it's originally intended as a non-derogatory way of just saying like a non-magician. So like, because like what you do for magicians, like if you're performing for magicians, it's probably different than what you do when you're performing for,
Of course.
you know, your crowd.
Yeah.
And so, and there's also like a lot of stuff that I love that I just kind of do for myself. But Anyway, I'm sorry. I feel like we're tangenting off. So
No, but
I have a question.
Yeah.
Real quick. When comedians hang out, sometimes there's lots of bits going on. People trying out in different material. You're hanging out with a bunch of magicians. Is that kind of thing happening?
where'd
Or
my
is, like,
fork go?
Okay.
Harrison,
Or is there
give me
like,
my fork.
or do you run like I'm thinking of doing this kind of
so
thing?
here's the thing.
You know?
This is one of the notes, right? So one of the issues I've always had was I came to magic very late. I'll finish out that story and then tie into this if that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that's great.
So what happens is, so I sort of internalized as sort of a spy, and that's what I went to go work in. That's what I went to college. So I was like a regular good student during the day.
Yeah.
So I was, and when I was in college, like I was a model student. So double major, double minor, student senator, TA in like 4 classes. Like it was like you would be like, oh yeah, he's great. Like he's dean's list and all that.
Have you
And
stopped the theft at this point?
no. And that was
still have
that
it.
was my night gig.
Yeah.
Like that's like, do you understand? Like there's your day job and then there's your night job. Like that was like, so that was day work, Matt. And then the other thing was like nighttime, Matt. And so I would go and do this, but it was never intended to be a career choice, right? It was supposed to be this like temporary thing that I kind of fell into. I always say a reapplication of an unusual skill set. So yeah, I ended up getting out of it when I was in my very early 20s, still in college, finishing up, went to go to a program, went to go still do that, was on the fast track for it. Everything was going great. I had put some money aside, like 50K-ish, just to kind of cover some expenses and things. So I didn't have to like work a normal job because you guys know how that is. Like once you don't work a normal job for a while, you're like, it's hard to go back.
Yes.
And so I went to Europe for the first time. And the problem is that like, it's like going to a casino. What I would do, like, you don't really look at money as money. So like it just becomes this thing you have to go get. So like we used to joke, like the pickpocket guys, we used to always laugh like, hey, you never really out of money. You just have to hit an ATM. And every motherfucker in here is an ATM. Yeah. And so because of that, you never really, like, you'd go to the bar and you like buy drinks for everybody, drink all night, and then you'd hit the bartender and pay him like a giant tip with his money, and he'd be like, thanks so much. And you'd be like, you're welcome.
Oh my God! Wait,
Like, I helped
that's something
so
you did?
much. I mean, it's something that has been done.
No.
So
Okay. So how did you
by people.
What
Yeah.
in terms of the?
Yeah.
You just wait till he looks away and you're good at
mechanics?
being smooth. Yeah.
No, like there's like a real art form to it. It would be that could be like the whole podcast.
That's
there's
so
There's
interesting.
a whole thing to it.
and
So.
and when that bartender would be
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's what I made tonight already. Amazing. Thank you so much.
I mean, you wouldn't like do it the exact number. You wouldn't be like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
calculate.
yeah.
Okay, let's calculate this out. Like you.
But did you feel? And this is not a judgment
Empathy?
thing.
No.
Do you feel any empathy?
Well,
Or
it
guilt.
was usually a guy who we thought was an asshole is the thing. Like we wouldn't be like,
Okay.
oh my God, this is a really nice person who really needs the money. It was like, think of it this way. It's almost like walking around with a loaded gun at any time, in that like if anybody really, the last person rubbed you the wrong way.
You're like
Right,
Robin Hood, but you steal from the assholes because they're assholes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't like the Robin Hood thing because it makes me more altruistic because it gives the implication that I'm going to go give it to somebody else.
Yeah, because
and
there's
really I'm just
definite
giving-
times where you get
It's-
annoyed with someone
Yeah.
that you're like, if I had that trick and did it, I would do it. And then
Yeah.
I could see 10 minutes later being like, that person's really nice. And I was just like, oh, you're in a bad mood.
You
know
can,
what I-
well, the
I
good news is
think-
you can also reverse pickpocket and you can actually give it
Oh,
back. Yeah. There is a technique for that. You can
Yeah,
give it
that's
back.
true, that's true.
Do you ever just fuck with someone, just move the watch from one wrist to the other and then back to the other?
Yeah, there's actually a funny story I know of another guy.
Isn't that a good use?
There was a hypnotist who I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if you'd run the story up, but there was a guy who was he's famous. He's a well-known guy in the industry. He's performing here in New York, and he was photographing with this photographer. And what happened was the photographer like goes and shoots a bunch of stuff with him, and then he goes to leave, and as soon as he left, he like had this insane urge to get a Coke, and he like stopped at the store and like downed a Coke so fast. And which is weird, he doesn't like soda, he hates soda, and he downs the Coke, and all of a sudden his phone rings, and he goes, "Hello," and it's the guy, and he goes, "Did you enjoy the Coke?" Like just to mess with them. Yeah. So yeah, people do, but that's like all in good fun. And so yeah, totally. Have I done that? Yeah. Absolutely. But like I don't take from people anymore. I can't stress this enough. I don't like to be mean about it. I don't get any joy out of it. Like it's really it's sort of a slippery slope in that it's almost like being an alcoholic. Like I viewed it as like once I'm out of it, I'm out of it. Because if you just do it, like I'll just do it this one time. All of a sudden you're like, all right, well just 2 more shots. Okay, let's mess it up tonight, guys. And that's like, it's just too
Are there
easy.
anonymous groups for thieves? Maldives? There must be some version of that.
Probably.
I'm
I
sure.
mean, maybe probably. But so anyway, I feel like this is getting away from the magic. So let's finish this up,
Yes.
and I'll
Yeah.
get to your point. So what happens is we get to. So I get to this thing, and I find out about how. So I go to Europe, and I spent a lot of money. Was the point is that I didn't really understand the value of a dollar because I never had to worry about it, and I blew through like. I think it was like 35K or 37K in like 32 days.
Oh
It
my
was like I think
God.
it was like $34,000 in like 32 days.
It's a fun month.
It was an awesome trip. It was still one of the best trips I've ever been on. But because I was just at the time, I was like, what if I never come back to Europe? What if I just never go again? I was like, I
Yeah.
shouldn't say no to anything. I should just do everything, which is hysterical now. It's like I'm in Europe every 6 months. But back then I was like, what if I never? So I bought everything. I did everything. I had an amazing, amazing, amazing time and came back and was like, oh no, I spent a lot of money. What do I do? And so I didn't really want to get a normal job. And I had heard about this guy who was a former card cheat turned magician. What happened was he was a card cheat like during World War II, and he made a bunch of money out there, like pretending like anytime there was like downtime. Any soldier will tell you like there's all the worst part of war is actually the boredom. You'll have like these intense, terrible times, and then all of a sudden days of just nothing to do, and they'd be like, let's play poker. And so he made all this money, came back and said to his girlfriend Annie, he said, Annie, baby, I love you, marry me. And she said, oh, I love you too, but I'm not marrying any damn card cheat. Get a real job and we'll talk. And he had been doing this since he was like 6 or something. It was crazy. He was in his early 20s. And he said, oh, God, I don't know what to do. And he thought, well, I'm kind of good looking and I'm kind of funny and, I'm quick with my hands. Maybe I could do magic. And that's what he did. And he ended up becoming very successful. And he went on to his life. And he retired to North Providence, Rhode Island, a town over from where I was living at the time. And I heard about this guy and I met him a couple of times before he passed from cancer. And I thought, maybe I could do this because I heard it through the kind of community. Because we have communities.
Yeah.
There are there are communities for criminal things. So I heard about this guy, and so I went, maybe I could do this. And I thought about it. I was like, this is a reapplication of an unusual skill set, right? So like I could cheat at cards and pick pockets, so I could do sleight of hand. And like most magicians can't cheat at cards. And so I was like, I guess I could do sleight of hand. And I could mentally manipulate and read people. So I guess I was a mentalist. And I could, and that was a very big focus in interest in my work was things regarding interrogation and counterintelligence. So, and then I could pick locks and get out of restraints. Oh, I guess I was an escape artist. I didn't mind dangerous situations. I guess I could do stunts. I'm not gorgeous, but I'm not like painful to look at. I'm pretty funny. I said, screw it. I bet I could try this. And I was like, I'll just try it a little while. And what happened was I started doing like just to like pay the bills. To like make sure I had like beer money mostly. It was like I went and would do like sorority and fraternity parties, just doing close-up stuff. And it wasn't anything crazy. It was, and it really also started because somebody was like, before I had heard about that guy, I forgot about this, was somebody like was describing a magic trick they saw on like a TV or something in a show, and I was like, I could do that. And they were like, no, you couldn't. I was like, yes, I could. And they were like, you don't even do any magic. Do you do any magic? I was like, no, but I could do that. And they're like, we'll do it. And they like, got a deck of cards. And I was like, okay. And so it's like bugs and insects.
Yeah.
Not all bugs are insects, but all insects are bugs.
Yeah.
Not all not all magicians can cheat at cards, but all card cheats can do card
Wow.
tricks.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest forms of sleight of hand. And so what happened was, everybody loves you to think that everybody can cheat at cards, like because you don't know.
Yeah.
And so they just all act like they can. And there are guys who, and I'm not saying like I was the best card cheat in history. There are absolutely guys who are way better at it than me. But like there was a line from a guy who actually, I was here in New York hanging out one time, and there was a guy who was like, oh, I heard you were a card cheat, and he knows a lot about this stuff. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, were you any good? I was like, good enough. And he went, you're only going to be better than the guy across the table from you, right? And I went, that's it. I said, I just need one thing better than him to make sure I win.
Yeah.
And you don't have to win every hand either. You basically want to win one large hand pot every hour. The rest of the time, you can just like lose your antes. So you want to be like middle good. Like if you're the best guy at the table,
Sure.
people want to
Yeah,
bet you back.
people-
And you're the worst,
Yeah.
you're the fish. So you want to be right in that middle spot. As long as you're that, like that's so you just need to like pick your moments and know enough. So anyway. So I was doing that, and I went to go work in that. I was in for the government. That was my channel, and I was out of the crime stuff. And I was told like look, when you go to do this, just be upfront about it. They would rather that it was a hard truth than an easy lie, because if they find out, you'll get fired or they won't hire you. And they will, if there's something to find out, they'll find it, and they will find it. And so I was okay. I was going to be candid, but at the time, the direction the government was going in and things was a little sketchy, and the things I had friends that kind of went to go do it, and I knew some of the things that they were being asked to do. I was like, I'm not super comfortable with this, and it just made me feel like, God, like I got out of the crime stuff because I didn't like how it was making me feel anymore. It was starting to weigh on my conscience. It was starting to make me feel like this was supposed to be like when you're a teen, you can kind of rationalize it off like I'm a teen, I'm 16 and I'm stupid. And now I'm like 21 and I'm like a grown ass adult and people respect me. Like before it was like I couldn't get a good job. So this is what I'm doing. Now I'm like people are offering me good jobs and I'm like that sounds like a lot of work. And so
in your mind, is any of this equation the fear I'm gonna get caught? Really? That's all I would be thinking about every second of the day.
Actually, I should say was it a percentage? Yeah, but it was not like the leading cause. What it was is like that comes up because you're sitting there thinking the trick to poker, if you're playing it straight, right, is knowing when to get it from the table. Like if you walk away on a high, then you win. But there are too many people that win big. You see this in a casino all the time. They'll win big money and they'll stay at the table.
Yeah.
And then they'll
Happened
eventually
to me the other fucking
so
week.
the trick is that I mean I was held but never charged. But you're right. I'm not saying that I would love to be like, oh my God, I never got a call because everything was skill. No, it was as much luck as it was skill, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And at some point that luck does run out. And the older you get, the worse it is. Also, if you're caught when you're like 17, they're like, don't do that again, kid.
Yeah.
If you caught when you're 22, they're like, time to go to jail, cowboy.
Yeah.
So, so that was one of the aspects of it. But either way, I didn't like it. Like, do I want to like have a family, like have a wife and kids and be like, okay, daddy's got to go to work. You know, that was like, I was starting to feel like a piece of shit in a lot of ways. And so that wasn't a problem to get out of it, like mentally for me. But then the problem is when I went to go do the government work and it was like, I was like, oh no, this is going to give me the same feeling.
Yeah.
And this is a thing I've worked for my whole life. And now this is where I've ended up. I was like, no. So I left that and then I was lost because I was like, oh my God, I've basically been doing this since I was like 9 years old. And now I don't know who I am or what I am. Like, you're not an actor anymore. You're not a comedian anymore. You're just whoever is left.
Yeah.
Good luck. Define yourself.
Yeah.
And you know that all that money you just spent on that education, all that time you wasted, your life.
Yeah.
So like, what are you going to do now? You want to just end up in like a boring
you
day
can
job?
move watches from people's wrists side to side.
Well, that was just
Good luck.
that was just it though. Like I wasn't a magician. I didn't define myself as a magician. That was like this thing I did in passing. What happened was I got a phone call from somebody while I was I was sort of in this like year sabbatical is what I viewed it as. It's like, well, I'll just sort of like find myself and figure it out. And my money was running out real bad now. And I was like lost. And my parents were very much like, so like, what are you going to do with your life? Like, where is this going? There's a lot of pressure all the time. Like, so what's going on with you? And I got a phone call from somebody who's like a friend of a friend who once saw me at a party a couple of years earlier. And she now worked for some corporation and they were doing a corporate event. And she was like, hey, I got your number from such and such. Are you available for this week? And I was like, for what? She said, well, you do magic, right? And I was like, yeah, kinda, I guess. And she was like, well, we have a magician for this event, but he dropped out at the last second. It's in like 3 weeks. If we would fly you and a guest out and we'll pay, you just have to do 2 shows, one at the beginning of the week, one at the end of the week. It's all expenses paid and we'll pay you X amount of dollars. And it's the same show twice and it's only 45 minutes. It's at like the adult Disney thing.
I would kill for this gig as a
Take that
professional
now.
stand-up
Tell
comedian.
me I need to be a magician for 3 weeks. I'll be like,
I would love if you had 3 weeks to come up with a 45-minute magic show for like 50 grand. I would pay $1,000
It wasn't like
to see
50
that
grand.
show.
Listen, it wasn't like, it was good. It wasn't like crazy good money, but it was like an amount of money that at the time I was like, they'll pay you that much to do magic tricks?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't meet my corporate price now, but at the time I was like, wait, what? And she goes, do you have a stage show? And I went, absolutely. But I did not. I did not have that at all. But I had 3 weeks to come up with one.
Yeah.
And so by the end of that 3 weeks, I was like, I guess I'm a magician now. And so what happened was I flew down. I took my best friend and he and I flew down and he was like my helper. And we did the first show and it went all right. And
Tell me all right. Like how all right?
Like, they were happy with it.
like a
They
good-
were.
Yeah. They were totally happy. That was great. And I felt like that seemed fine. But I was like, but look, what's kind of nice about this is terrible to say now. because this is not how I view it now. But at the time, as a magician, people come up to me all the time and they're like, that was the best magic show I've ever seen. I always secretly in the back of my head want to go, how many have you seen? Because if I am the first magician you've ever seen live, I am the Schrodinger's cat of magicians in that I am simultaneously the best and worst magician you've ever seen because I'm the only one you've ever seen.
Yes.
It's like when a cruise director or somebody who like a Vegas booker comes up to you and goes, you're the best magician I've ever seen. Like those are compliments. Like one of my best compliments I ever got was this guy who used this old timer used to work for Frank Sinatra, and he was involved in all this corporate stuff down in New Orleans, and my friend dragged him to my show. He did not want to go. He clearly did not want to be there. He did not laugh at a single. The audience was in tears. I was killing it that night. He was not laughing at a single front row center, just dead-eyed. Not a single laugh, not a single. So I'm doing miracles. I was like, Jesus himself could show up to you and raise Lazarus, and he'd be like, I've seen it done better. And so afterwards, he waits in the line. So it's like the meet and greet, and I'm signing the autographs, and he's waiting, and he waits to the back, and everybody goes, and he walks up to me, and he says one of the best things I've ever heard. He goes, hey, kid. I go, yeah? He goes, you substantiate your bullshit. And what he meant was by that is every magician you ever read their thing, every magician on earth is award winning. Everyone is the best. Everyone is. But he was like, I read your bio and you substantiate your bullshit. Yeah. And I was like, that is a good. So that kind of thing, because that guy has seen a lot, right?
Yeah.
He's seen some things.
Yeah.
Whereas like, so they seemed happy enough, but I don't. Looking back, it was fine. It was fine. It was good enough.
Of course, it couldn't be more than fine.
It
was a crazy thing.
Like, let it slide.
But did you make big changes between the beginning of the week and the end of the week?
I didn't make changes in the material, but I was tighter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you
just knew it now. I felt comfortable with it. Once you're comfortable with your material is better. So,
and are you at this point? Are you studying? Are you reading Tarbell? Like, who are you looking to?
No. So, I gotta be honest. I don't really remember. I mean, a lot of it was like I had the techniques already. I just didn't apply them in that way. Again, a reapplication of unusual skill set.
You weren't doing big
No, I was on
illusions.
stage. It was like stuff on stage. I was doing things on stage. Yeah.
Did you
I
have
had to do a stage show?
Because I think one of the
Not
reasons
just cards.
I stopped. I mean, one of the reasons Magic's really
Like
exciting.
now,
in the beginning,
there's no cards in my shows now.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, it was part of the excitement is like you can buy things like
Yeah.
Magic, like especially when you're starting out. You're like, Dad, can I buy the $400? Or you get like the cheapest like
You're a
sword through the
generous
neck.
dad.
It's like a
Yeah.
sword that's like
Yeah,
this wobbly.
And
And
you know
clearly
I'm
it
a
goes-
sword swallower, right?
Oh no! Yes, I do remember.
So there's only like 70 of us in the world, and those drive those of us who can actually do it for real nuts.
No
because
one
we're
was
always
believing this. The sword was like this, and so you put it here, and it basically goes in, and like tinfoil like goes around your neck and out the other side.
Right. Yeah, so it wasn't store-bought things. Like I made stuff. Like I created some stuff using techniques.
Sword swallowing compared to all the skills that you've just shared.
Yeah.
To me, sword swallowing has nothing to do with that.
Technically, you're right. So it is an allied art. We can get into that in a second. So
Okay.
because I still got to answer you. So I'm lining these up now in my head. All right. So what happens is I go and I do the second show. It goes great. And at the end of the night, and this is the big moment. It wasn't the show just didn't matter.
Yeah.
What mattered was after we were done. I remember we went over to the House of Blues. There in that downtown Disney section thing, not downtown Disney, Pleasure Island. That's where we were. So because it was at like one of the hotels or something.
Yeah.
So we went down there and we were hanging out, and there was a bunch of people from the event at the bar, and they just kept sending drinks over to us. And I remember we were sitting under those like kind of like hanging lights, and I remember in my head just thinking, God, this is what life should feel like. All these people were like patting me on the back. Oh man, this show was great. Like it just felt really good, and like people buying you drinks, and like, it was always sort of like what I craved with my skill set, but I could never tell anybody. Right? Like these all seem unconnected. The spy stuff, the crime stuff, the magic stuff, but there is one thread through all of them, which is a secret knowledge which I have and you don't.
Yeah.
But in the other two versions, I could never tell anybody. That's why it was good. Was most con men get caught because they want to brag about it.
Yeah.
They want you to know that they're the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And so I knowing that I couldn't talk about it, wouldn't, but it killed me inside. So this was for the first time ever where I was like, I can just tell people like what I'm doing, and they're like thanking me for it. And now, before, if I showed up in any of those other versions, even for the government, I was probably giving somebody a bad day.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if I show up, I am making your day better. It was a really nice feeling to like feel like I was doing good. And,
Sure.
And so I thought to myself, this is what life should feel like all the time. And in my head, I thought that.
That's what I felt after the first time I masturbated, as opposed to doing a corporate
That's how I feel
magic
every
show.
time I do it.
But yeah.
Actually, it's actually how I feel every time. I feel that
was
way
actually at a
after
House
every
of
time
Blues.
you masturbate. I feel that way after every
This
time.
is
Like,
how life should
I was
be.
like, oh my God, he just finished, didn't he? That's how life should be. I just get a tingle, and so the hairs go up. So
You know your story about the guy drinking the Coke? The guy comes to the phone rings.
Did you
Pretty good orgasm, huh?
Did you? It was solid. Were you thinking of me? So what happens is but as I sat there, my friend, there's like a pause of silence. We're just kind of enjoying the moment. All of a sudden, my friend looks at me and goes, "You ever feel like this is what life should be like all the time?" And he said the exact thought I was thinking. And I went, "This is it." I said, "This is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my job from now on. I'm going to be a magician. I'm going to be a mentalist. I'm going to do stunts. I'm going to give it a year. And if it works, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And if it doesn't work, screw it. I'll go back and I guess I'll work for the government."
Yeah.
And within a year, I was doing TV and touring nationally. And within 2 years, like internationally.
Wow.
And that was it. And so yeah, that was the direction I went in. And I developed my own first show, which was all mentalism show, was like, because that's always been my real passion. And so, yeah. But that is, now to your question, the problem is that because of this, I came to magic very late. And it's made me very different than other magicians I found. So most magicians pick it up as a kid. It's usually a male thing. It's usually a power thing. They'll take a kid who feels isolated, and it's a way to like make them feel kind of authority and a sense of urgency over others. And unfortunately, I find that in many ways it becomes a crutch for a lot of people. And they don't learn like social skills beyond that, because
Magicians are not exactly. I mean, there's a joke with
No, it's
comedians
true.
of, they couldn't make their virginity disappear. Like
Right.
there's a view of
But it's also like you're just thinking about it now. I don't think of tons of magician shows where there's multiple magicians on the lineup. It's usually an isolated thing. You're doing your show,
Yeah.
so it's not like
It's
you're
still
hanging
the
out
mystique.
and
People say back in the
But
day
they do
they're
hang
like,
out.
Okay,
They do. They hang
do.
out all the time. And I say they because, like, for me, it's like a bit of a separation. So, do I have friends who are magicians? Yes, but I'm not the normal magician. Like, I don't have a lot of magician friends. I have way more like comedian friends or agent friends or actor friends or musician friends, just because I think it's because they kind of think differently. So when magicians get together, the answer is they are constantly showing each other tricks. They're constantly talking about tricks. They're constantly talking about technique. Whereas I tend to prefer to hang out with people who like talk about performance. So I usually way rather hang out. I would way rather hang out with comedians who are like, let me tell you why that bombed, or and that's nothing is there's sort of this ego thing with a lot of them. And I know you guys know comics were like this. They always have to be like, oh, everything's good. That's why I love the idea of this podcast. That was
Sure.
the immediate thing. She was like, you're going to like this podcast. My agent goes, you're going to like this podcast. You're not going to talk about anything good. You're going to talk about things you hate. And I was like, that's brilliant. I was like, I
Amazing.
love every element of that. And so, and I heard I listened to a couple of segments that you guys have done, and like you guys had Roy Wood Jr. on. We
did.
And so I knew Roy way back in the day as an acquaintance. So yeah, when he was doing the college circuit and things, because I make a lot of money in the college circuit. And so I remember saying to him a long time ago before he was famous, like, you should be famous. Like, your stuff is so tight. He used to just bit about this bracelet for white people. I don't know if you've ever heard this. It was
No, I
so-
haven't.
it was
What-
so
what-
good.
which bracelet? Tell me.
It was this thing like he was like, I'm not saying like all white people are bad. He was like, there are some white people I know, like you're great people, you're allies, you're not racist, you're really fun to be around. You do like when you say like I have black friends, it's because you really do have black friends. And he was like, I just feel like black people should all get like maybe like 3 or 4 bracelets that we can like hand out. So when people are like, no, I'm one of the good ones, and you just like show the bracelet, I was like, oh my god, he was so funny and he was so good.
I love that.
Yeah. So I was like, when I hear and I don't know Roy, I haven't seen Roy in a decade, but
I'll tell him he said hi. I'll text him right after this.
look, show him this, because I remember saying like I walked in, like I said, I will be polite. Like if somebody comes off stage and I don't like their set, I'll be like, good set, But if I'm like, that was awesome, you're really funny,
Yeah.
you should be famous, it's because I'm like, you are so much bigger than your talent is. And I remember like how hard he worked. Like I think his license plate used to read like no sleep. And it was
Just so you know, when I edit this, I'm going to cut out a clip where it's you looking at me going, you should be famous. I'm listening to it. I'm just like,
I feel like I'm going to pander
I'm taking
now.
this personally. Even though
No. Look, I told you in the beginning, though. I would not.
Yes.
One of the things I said to my agent was, I was like, there were so many. Oh God, this feels like some trash talk that I don't really want to throw up, but whatever. There's so many comics now who I watch their stuff. And I'm like, God, you're not funny. Like, do you want to maybe stop it to take a moment to tell a joke?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like really like, wow, you've just wasted an hour of my time, and you have told 3 jokes in an hour. I'm like, and now I kind of go almost like now when I put like comedian on my thing, I'm like, people laugh through my whole show.
Yeah.
Like they're laughing because and with my show, like if you go to a comedy club, look, you put the low ceilings, you stick them in nice and tight. Like, you use all the tricks.
Yeah.
With me, I'm in a big theater, high ceilings, and I'm still going to make everybody uproariously laugh. I'm
Sure.
like, I've got to work for it. So I'm like, if you get every reason to succeed at this and you still suck, or you're getting those like how there's like standing ovations you've gotten where you're like, I earned this. And there's other ones where I'm like, you guys just like standing for stuff. There's so many times where I like watch a
I've
show
seen
and people-
Titanic.
Oh,
Okay.
savage.
I'm earning that.
Every
So-
Broadway show, but there was a Broadway etiquette thing. It used to be like extraordinary.
Yeah.
I have stood for I think 5 shows in my entire life, and I see a lot of live theater. I will be the one guy who sits
I
while
was gonna
everyone
ask,
is around me.
I
Psycho.
sit a little longer. I sit a little longer, and then I go.
I always say when I see, because there's sometimes people in the front row that don't do it, and I always do. I have a little thing that I do when I with my cast member when we come over for our bow thing,
Yeah.
and I go, that don't impress them much, and point out people that are not standing.
I don't know. I'm not going to say what it is, but the show we saw last night, we were the only 2 people who didn't stand. We just sat.
Was it a musical? Was it a play?
Was it like the hits of Celine Dion?
I'm not going to say what it was. I liked the show, for the record. I did like the show. I
Sure.
will tell you privately
Yeah, tell
afterwards
us off.
because I know people involved.
It's very hard. Listen, I've always wanted to be like a little bit honest, shit talky.
Yeah.
Not in a,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
as you get older, you're like,
It can hurt your career.
I just worked with them on Sunday,
Yeah.
and they were really
the funny
nice
thing is,
to
though,
me. In the
but also,
green
I would
room.
say this: like, I absolutely had a good time. I absolutely thought it was worth the ticket price. I would recommend the show.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just I've stood 5 times. You're not going to be my 6th. Like, I wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Like, I wasn't brought to tears. I wasn't moved. And it didn't mean the show was bad. I just I think and I feel the same way. Like, sometimes when people stand for me, I'm like, I was good tonight. I wasn't great. Like, I know that. Like, you know what I mean? But there are times too where they haven't stood. I'm like, bitch, you should stand. Like, I was killing it. What show did you see? Did you take a nap in the middle? You know? So because of that, jumping back, so there is this thing where because they don't have these social skills, right? Like there's still sort of an emotional disconnect for me. And also I am too weird for most magicians because so the horror stuff I do, like I'm into horror things. It's just like a thing I enjoy, and also the sideshow stuff. This ties in perfectly with that, like the sword swallowing. So I am a sword swallower. That's extremely rare, period. Never mind in magic. That's technically not magic. It's called an allied art, which means it is related to magic, but because it's real, it's not technically magic. There's
see.
a bunch of things I do in that I really like, and I think it enhances my magic. And the reason is if I go and do a show, so my standard show is it mixes things that are real that seem fake and things that are fake that seem real.
Yes.
I hated how people would leave a show and they would have a conversation about how tricks were done because I think it's a very boring conversation because you'll never know if you're right. If
Yes.
you were right,
Yeah.
if you were right, no one can tell you. And if you're wrong, what's going to do is you're just going to decide you're right and you'll be self-satisfied in that and go home with that. That is boring. A better conversation, and I'd never watch a magic show to like figure out tricks. I go and I turn that like lizard part of my brain off because I can dissect them and I can figure them out, but I just click that off while
Really,
I'm
you
watching.
can?
Oh, absolutely.
Because stand-up, I sometimes can't disconnect, and I go, okay, I see that. Oh, I
if
see
it's
what
bad, if it's bad, I'll go.
Sure,
"Ugh,
that's
yeah."
true. If I see Mulaney, I'm just like enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because of this, right, I will turn off this little part of my brain. I will just sit and enjoy the show. And I want to feel that childlike wonderment that like Doug Henning used to talk about. But they're really fast interested in tricks. And so this becomes like an emotional disconnect for me. So it's hard for me to like talk about that stuff with these people. So I tried to change the conversation to I don't know that it works. You know what I mean? I don't know that people do this. I've heard it sometimes. I'm sure they're still talking about tricks a lot. But anytime I hear somebody do it, I'm like, it makes my heart happy. Is that instead it's like, well, this one was definitely fake, but that one, do you think that one was real? And I'm amazed often how many times people come up to me and they go, when you did this, I knew that was total bullshit, but this, I could like feel you, blah, blah, blah. And they're totally wrong. The thing they think is bullshit was absolutely real. The thing they think was real was total bullshit.
I love that.
And I think that's really, I think that's fun. And that's why I mix both of them. That's why, because I just want to do, I would argue that like anything I can do on there that feels miraculous or impossible, that I then make you question your reality in a moment, that's magical. And so that's what I try to deliver in any format. But my problem is that when I meet these other magicians, because they come from such a different place, so I'm too weird for normal magicians.
Too weird for magicians.
But I'm too normal for like sideshow people. I like look like somebody's dad showed up. They're like, oh, look at that family man. So like, or like horror people. Like a lot of times, like I don't have any tattoos. I don't like. There's nothing about me that you would like. If you just saw me on the street, you'd be like, you wouldn't be like, oh, he's a reformed criminal who now reads minds for a living and has like, and has like horror movie props from original films like scattered about his house.
Yeah.
Like you just wouldn't expect.
I do get that. Like with actors, I always feel like I'm far too cynical, or like with some actors, they're in that lofty place where I'm like, I was like that in high school.
I
maybe.
know. Yeah. It's
So I
very
understand what you mean
interesting.
about like just like
There's a
in between
it's
niche
tough
worlds.
to find the right.
With stand-up comedians, I'm too
Yeah.
good looking, like for most. And it's
No, but I
I wasn't
know.
gonna say it. I thought it, but I was gonna say it.
well, okay. Since this is the downside, I'd love to hear. Whether it's swords or magic, share me something that went wrong on stage, something that did not go as planned.
God, I got so many of those. I literally made up a list where I was like, what are the worst shows? And
Yeah.
so Miami or Long Island? Long Island. Okay.
no.
So she gave a hard nod on that. So what happened was, so I do a lot of colleges. I'm very popular in the college scene. I enjoy doing colleges. They've gotten a bit more prickly over the years.
Content-wise?
Oh yeah, definitely. And so kind of everything's gotten toned down a lot, but that's fine. And so I got hired. So this was not a show in like a Midwest evangelical region or the Deep South. Like this is I'm not going to say who, but a Long Island university.
Okay.
So you can get there on the train. All right. Like,
Yeah.
And I got hired to do two, I don't remember if it was welcome weeks or orientations. I think it was two orientations. So they hired me to come in. Yeah, must have been orientation. I came in 1 week, went home, came back the next week, right? To do the same show twice for two different groups, like 500-600 students at a clip. So I show up for the first one and I do the show, and the show goes great. I think I get 2, maybe 3 standing ovations. I mean, like everybody's super happy. We talk to the assistant advisor, the people who hire you, or the campus activities board, and there's the advisor and the assistant advisor. So the assistant advisor comes over and they're like, oh my God, that was fantastic. And when we show up, we got an email a couple days later that was like, we put out like comment cards to kids. Like if you go on a cruise, they do this too. And they go, how you were rated, and you received a 99.9% positive rating. And the show was a little weird though. So we got like these great reactions, and they said we've never had anybody that happy. So we're like, this is fantastic, because the people who really make me money aren't the ones who book us one time. It's the people who book us every year.
Yeah.
We don't even have to spend the time and energy into renegotiating contracts.
Totally.
We just
Sure.
go,
Yeah.
great, and we'll even give you a discount if we know you're coming back, and also if you're easy to work with, we know what we're getting into. You guys get it, like you know how it is.
Yeah.
It's so nice. So we're like, oh man, if we can do 2 or 3 of these, and it's, to me, that's local. Like I'm in Rhode Island. Long Island is still local. Like I don't have to get on a plane. I can hop on a train and just be there that day. It's so easy. Way better than like flying to Texas or something.
Yeah.
So But the show was a little weird. So, like, at one point we have this girl up on stage, and it's a piece. I don't really do much anymore, but I take this box and I kind of have this buildup around this box, and it's like kind of like ripped up, and it's been wrapped by TSA like 40 times because TSA always thinks it's a bomb, literally. And like now it's like a thing that is known now in airports. Like I travel so much, like you said, for work that like a lot of airports know who I am, the TSA guys, because I've had weird stuff, and they'll be like, "Hey, Matt," and I'll be like, "Hey," they're like, "Is the boxy this time?" And I'm like, "Yeah," they're like in the bottom. Like, yeah, like we'll be careful with it. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
And I literally, they now have like over taped it because they know the bit I do with it. So they've intentionally over taped it to make it look even worse. So it's great. So it's got all this TSA tape all over it.
ICE is going to start working with magicians because they
They
get big boxes.
Hey, I've already got the spy background. I mean, I am for hire. I'm a whore. You got the money, I got the time.
Imagine if he killed us at the end of this podcast and said, destroy the footage.
We're just gonna have a black bag team come in and take you guys out. I don't handle that stuff. We have people for that. She'll just make a call. Yeah, we actually just send a text out. It's really nice. They're on Instagram. So,
and then as you look at our bodies, like they shouldn't have talked about that one
One thing.
Okay.
So what happens is so I get this girl up on stage and I put this box kind of goes into her lap. Now, there's also an issue because what happens is basically at one point I have to have a person like for this bit. It's weird to explain without details, but just bear with me. I kind of have her like jump up onto my back and I kind of carry her at one part on the back.
Yeah.
And it's fine. But the issue is the joke was like something like, oh, I need somebody who's shorter than me. I need someone who's weighs less than me. I need someone who's over the age of 18. And then the line is like, what I need is a lady. But I do it like very cheesy. So it's like clearly tongue in cheek. But really what it is I need someone who's not bigger than me because you'll mess my knee up and I'll fall. It's really what it comes down to. It's like, it's a weight issue.
Yeah.
I just don't want like I'm not like a super tall dude and I don't want a 7 foot 275 guy who's like me.
Yeah.
And I have to be like, sorry, sir. Like, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So it's like, I do this joke it's really just a stupid line. So we'll get back to that.
I like you get more specific. Like I need someone between 105 pounds and 107 at the most.
Let's say a B cup. So agent just went no. So what happens is no. So we get a no. But what happened was I don't really care who it is.
Yeah.
I just need one who's willing to do it. And one who is not bigger than me.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't care if it's a guy. It's just so many dudes are like, oh, like they'll come up on stage and be like, that's gay. And if I'm like, get on my back, I don't care. But I don't have the time to like debate you on stage. And a girl just won't care. That's what it comes down to.
Sure.
So I get this girl. And so what happens is before that happens, so I put this box in her lap. And I kind of like build up a joke about what do you think is in there. And she all of a sudden looks terrified and goes, is it birds? And I go, huh? And like, if you looked at the box, you'd be like, there aren't birds in there. If they are, they're dead. Like, there's no way. And I go, huh? And she goes, it's birds, isn't it? And I go,
ma'am.
I go, I go, I promise you, it's not birds. And she goes, I think it's birds. I go, look, lady, it's not birds. So now I'm trying to like move on. And she's like panicking. She's like shaking. She's like, I'm afraid of birds. I'm afraid of birds. I was like, okay, it's not birds. She's like, if a bird flies out of there, a bird won't. Listen, I'm telling you, if a bird flies out of there, I will be amazed. I too will be like, this is incredible magic. Because I didn't put any birds. There's no bird. And then now it's like killed the joke. Because there's like a joke, but I go into it. I go, it's nothing. It's just this like irrelevant thing. I go, open it up.
I like this amazing mentalist being like, it's not
Shut
birds.
the fuck up.
It's not birds. Just shut up.
Right.
Shut the fuck up.
So, and she goes, and I go, are you seriously afraid of birds? And she goes, I'm terrified of birds. And I go, where do you live? And she's like, when I'm not in school, I live in New York City. I go, there are a lot of birds there.
Yeah.
Like, what do you, I was like, okay. I go, how do you live your life? She'd just be walking out going, there's that pigeon again. He's eyeing me. So the show was kind of weird. And then so I used to do this other piece that was I didn't have a scary show then, but I did a piece that was about voodoo that was kind of scary and pretty. I really liked it and it was pretty cool. And a tiny contingent of the people who work there, not the students, but the staff. And this is like, again, like this wasn't even like a late night show. It's like a 6 o'clock show.
Yeah.
It was in such a big space. It wasn't even like the lighting sucked there. So you couldn't even like make it moody. So it wasn't like, they were so scared that they got up and they left. And then my agent went out to be like, hey, are you guys okay? And they were sobbing. Remember, again, not Midwest, not even like this is Long Island. They are openly weeping. They'd be like, some of them are praying. They're like, that's demonic. It's evil. It's real.
Was it a
That's
super
satanic.
religious school?
No.
But there's weird, like, conservative parts of Long Island.
But if you're leaving the Mad Show
But-
crying, you're not going. You're not
And
finishing.
hold on, I
college.
would also like to point out, this is only the staff. The students are going, this is great. It was the most popular piece of the night. They were
Yeah.
like, fantastic stuff, Matt.
Weird.
So we finished the show, and so they send us some notes. Well, so the assistant advisors is like, that was great. She was one of the criers. She was like, that was great. 99. We got the reviews back, 99.9. We're like, okay, cool. So, because as I view, I was like, look, everybody was happy. You're
Yeah.
crying. And they were like, hey, could you maybe not do the scary piece? And I was like, no problem. We won't
Or they
do
come back. Could you announce before the show? There's
there's
no birds. No
There's
birds
not-
at all.
no birds used in this.
So we cut this scary piece, and they were like, we didn't like this. And we're like, okay. So we changed some. And normally I will never change material, but this one I was like, and at this point in my career, especially, this is a few years back, but at this point in my career, I'm just like, get the show or you don't get the show. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like the thing I can do is I can do a clean one or I can do a dirty one.
You
Yeah.
keep talking. I just put a different battery in, but keep going.
I can do a clean one or I can do a dirty one, but I'm not gonna like change the show
Yeah.
beyond that. And so, and the dirty one's not even that dirty. So, but we had gone back and we made all the changes they want, and the woman was still pissed. The advisor was like, "Yup, you're like," and they wrote. Like this terrible, it's the only bad review I've like ever gotten, and I got this terrible. In her line, it said he only did 3 tricks, and he scared everyone, and everyone hated it. And what was the other thing? It was everyone hated it. There was another one.
Weird.
Yeah, there was another thing where it was like everybody hated it, and oh god, there was one more thing. Oh, and we told him not to do the scary thing, and he did it again anyway. And I was like, no, I didn't. Like, this is so weird. Like, the whole thing was so weird. So I was like, oh, I guess we're not. So that one was pretty. And that is actually the reason. The one thing that came out of it is one of the main reasons I ended up doing a scary show was because I stopped doing that bit because I went, oh my God, like people are getting upset by it.
Yeah.
And the only way I could then do it was I had a few other scary things that because I like horror stuff. So I
Yeah.
would usually do them around Halloween. I would just like
Yeah.
change out a bit. And people loved them. So they were both, we found, the most popular and also most complained about pieces I had.
Yeah.
So what happened was I had to make a whole new show that was just horror stuff. And that way, if somebody's like, you were scary,
It's
I'm like, that's
framed.
what you paid for.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm sorry you went to the haunted
need
house.
a
and
third
got
one.
scared.
Yeah.
The bird show.
The bird
bird
show.
show.
Yeah, really scary. Yeah.
Well, let's go on to our this has got to stop because people get mad when I skip this one. It is right here.
This has gotta stop.
This has got to stop. Oh, you didn't hear the music. There's music that plays.
I believe you.
So tell us the thing that's got to stop. Can be magic, can be regular life.
This is because there was 2 bits, right?
Yeah. There's a blessing bit after
Okay,
this.
so this is the one that's hold on, let me look. I have a note.
Yeah.
I remember I actually
Russell, do you have a this has
Yeah.
got to stop?
I do. Okay, so
a text
sometimes
artist.
on the subway, you see this probably once a week. Tourists will get on, and there'll be a group of them, and the train starts moving, and the woman's like, "Whoa!" and like falls over into someone, and it's always like this cutesy, like, "I can't believe I didn't know how a train would work," and I fucking hate it. Know how to stand on a moving train. I don't care if you've never been on a subway before. You know how trains move. You have to hold on to something. It's not cute. I don't like it. Stop. That's got to stop.
I think that
Do you know what I mean?
If we had like, we found clips of you complaining before Titanic and before like after being in an off-Broadway show.
Yeah.
That your feelings about like dealing with people in the world, you've become more hateful.
No.
More intolerant.
What does this have to do with Titanic?
He said no,
'cause,
but he said no like
you
he was afraid you're right.
Like I feel like you've just you have to deal with like tourists all the time now. You have to deal with people, and now you see them on the train ride home, and they're the same people that weren't standing for you for your show. Now they're standing on the subway.
99.9% of people stand.
Are there birds in your
It's
show
the
though? That's
people
what
that
I
are
need to
afraid
know.
of birds that are not
Yeah,
standing.
birds in your show.
Yeah.
I do have mine now, yeah.
Okay, you go. You do yours.
Okay, so because I travel so much, I'm always on planes.
Yes.
I average like 100 flight days a year. And
Oh my God.
Yeah.
can we please just leave our shoes on when we go through security? Like one guy,
sure.
like 15 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it was, tried and failed to blow up a plane with.
You got to be TSA pre-check.
You're TSA pre-check,
I
no?
am not.
Wait,
listen.
Matt.
I will tell you.
Wait,
I know.
You're traveling
I
100
know.
days a year.
And let me tell you why. So I got a few reasons. One is, so you know are you guys TSA pre-check?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm everything.
Did you get fingerprinted?
I had to
Probably.
go to the thing.
So a guy who was doing the kind of work I did, that is not worth skipping 4 minutes in line. Are you out of your mind? Like, I saved so little. So you got to.
Why? You said you're done doing it.
So here's the thing. What? Doing the thing? Oh, it's still ingrained in you. Like, it's still like you don't just give up your personal data. Another thing is that, like, so I get automatic first class upgrades because of my status.
Sure.
So I still get the priority line, so I can skip everybody. I just have to take my shoes off. Like, that's the only thing I
Wait.
still have to do.
But let me.
I think it's so funny.
Don't you judge my have to
you're
stop.
like, you're like, but then Sherlock will catch
did
me.
I don't know if I did get fingerprinted for it.
I'm pretty
I
sure
had
I
to
did.
go to JFK and do an interview.
There's a
you did the
digital
interview.
reader.
Maybe I did. I
Yeah.
just don't remember.
there was a digital
I was
one.
like, take it all. I gave a semen
I don't
sample.
mind. I don't even mind
care.
the interview. Anything to keep these shoes
We
on.
don't need this.
$300. There you go.
I'll blow you in the back.
That's incredible. That
Why was his fine and mine's not? I feel judged right now. Out of all
no,
the things
no,
you
because
could
it's
you're not
surprising
talking 4
that you're
minutes.
traveling.
Sometimes you're saving a lot
Oh
of
no,
time.
for me, because I skipped the line anyway. So the only thing that is the only thing.
But you won't do anything that involves your fingerprints. That's what's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Fingerprints, that's a deal breaker
Yeah,
for you.
I won't do a DNA test. You shouldn't do that either. Yeah.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Well, wait. Have you done a DNA test?
I've not.
I don't think so.
So if you read the fine print, they actually also are allowed to. They now legally own the data of your DNA. Like if you read it.
So they could like make a clone of me.
You know what? The answer is they don't know, but they figure at some point they can find a way to market that material at some point. They're just getting ahead of the game. So that's part of the contract that you sign when you do it. So there's like all that stuff that I just go, why? To take like it's not like they were like, here's $10,000 that like you get to slip. You don't have to slip your shoes off.
Yeah.
Like I'll just wear loafers. It's fine. But yeah, I don't like. It's just stupid. No other country in the world does it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you go, so it's just security theater. Like if you go to France and
Of
try
course,
to
it's
take
all
your shoes
security
off,
theater.
they go, what are you doing? Put your shoe. They look at you like you're such an idiot. Like if you're out in Thailand and you go to take your shoes off in line, they go, look at this moron American taking his shoes off. You know, nobody else does that. It's only us. We'll be fine, guys. Keep
I
your shoes
agree.
on.
I agree.
Well,
agree.
apparently you do now. You didn't a second ago.
Well,
you just get
we had a hard time.
It was just funny to think, like, I tell all my friends get TSA pre-check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never was like, unless you're thinking
Like
about a
what
life
about
of
like
crime
have you
later in
seen-
life.
what about the other one where they do I forget, it's not TSA pre-check, but it's the other one. But they do
Clear.
Yeah, they
Clear.
do a retinal scan.
Yeah, I gave them my retinal
What?
scan.
Yeah, you don't think that's
Because
creepy?
one day the line was a minute shorter, and I said, "Here's my eyes."
See, you know what?
Take my
Hey,
eyes. Here.
so listen. You know how
Oh my god, I'm fucked. I'm gonna be like in some galactic prison someday.
You know how I used to be a con man, yeah?
Yeah.
I just want you to know,
Oh.
if you had a lot of money, you would be a beautiful target for me. I just want you to know
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that
Like, I like
hurts.
how you're looking at me going,
Especially if he's in a rush.
I like how
Just
he's
like,
looking at the guy
take
who
it.
literally owns a security and fraud prevention company and goes, Matt, what do you know about security?
I once I got scammed in Italy. Someone got on the bus and they said, like, I'm a policeman. Did you have the special pass? And I'm like, no. And he said 50 euros, and I gave it to him. I was 21.
euros.
I was 21.
And he's like,
No.
The cop goes, another question for you. Where are your shoes right now?
We talked about it on this one when I went to
Yeah.
Amsterdam, and I
Yeah.
didn't hire a sex worker for sex, but because I was too scared of STDs. But they said they put on a lesbian show for me,
okay.
and it was a series of escalating. Like once I gave them the 50, then they said, "So you want the little lesbian show, medium lesbian show, big?" And I said like little, and she took out. I'm telling this story again, but she just took out one nipple, and then she just talked with her friend. And I was like, "What is this?" She's like, "You want me to get the vibrator?" I was like, "Sure." And then she said, "I have to put the condom on the vibrator." And in my head, I was like, "Condom on the vibrator? I don't think that's a."
You could have watched
But
that
then she was like,
vibrator
"Yeah,
before.
I need it," and so I was like, and then I did this. All I had was 100. It was 20 for the condom vibrator. I said, "Oh, could I get change for the 100?" And I handed her the 100. Never saw that 100
Listen,
again.
have you ever played 3 Card Monte?
I tried to outsmart it once, and
Hey, I bet
Yeah.
today's your day. I got some cards in the bag. Today is your day. We got some time before I
if
gotta catch
somehow
my train.
on camera you were able to con both of us during the podcast taping.
Yeah, I love just at the end. I walk out. I was like, "Thanks so much, guys." And you're both like, "Where are wallets?
Where are anything?
Yeah,
This has got to stop. This is when men come up to me when I visit outside New York and they go, New York, Mets or Yankees? Mets or Yankees? And then I have to guess which one they want me to say.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to engage in some little Yankees.
Why do you just
Yankees.
say neither? I don't really follow it.
Because then they go.
You're right. You're right. You
It's,
gotta
it's
pick
a
one.
thing.
Just
They
pick
wanna
one
be
and
guys.
commit to it.
But it's amazing how you can fake it.
Yeah.
If I get it right, if I'm like Mets, they're like Mets,
Yeah.
looking good this year. And
You're
I'm
like,
oh yeah,
Good
Good trades we
Poppy
made.
is doing good things
big
down there.
swings with that bat. Big swings.
Yeah.
Ball's going
First
far
base,
and
second
high.
base, third base. Whoa, it's out of the park.
I love that as a sketch. Some guy really going along with all the language.
Oh my God.
We got a real
man,
shortstop
we got
over
a-
here. Whoa.
Babe Ruth reincarnated with this fella over here.
You should just like really lean into me, like, I played in the minors.
You know what's funny is if it's two guys and they're both faking it.
Yeah.
So they both keep escalating it for each other,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
no
yeah.
one knows to call the
Yeah.
other out that they're saying something stupid.
They're like, I love sports ball.
Oh,
yeah.
swing and a miss.
Swing and a hit.
Oh.
Home run. You're coming. All right, let's go on to
You better count your blessings.
You Better Count Your Blessings. Don't worry, I texted him. Since we did play this beautiful music, Douglas Goodhart, our good buddy, member of Uncle Function, we're about to tape a live episode that will be coming out. It's not the 1st of May, which is already passed when this comes out, the 1st of June, with Dr. Lisa Lippman. And Douglas Goodhart is going to be the co-chair, co-host, co-chair. And if you want to listen to those live episodes, you can come to them live if you're in New York City. We release longer clips on the feed, but if you want to see the full thing, join the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. Let's see something we're thankful for. We got some good complaining in there.
Yeah.
Russell, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for Bob Foss, my father-in-law, for the lovely trip to Hawaii. It was very nice to let us stay, and he's a timeshare there, and I'm very grateful for it. It was
Here's
a
my
very
question.
much needed restful vacation.
If I ran into Bob Foss,
Yeah.
and I say, "Hey, Bob,"
He knows you.
I know he knows me.
Okay.
But if I said,
He's like, people know me.
Yeah.
if I said, I do a podcast with your daughter's husband, what's the name of the podcast?
I don't know if he's seen the clips. He is on Instagram, so he's seen the clips.
Okay.
I think he would. I don't know if he.
By the way,
actual name.
no way my dad would know the answer. 100%.
I don't know if he'd know the answer of the downside, but he knows that we're on a podcast and he's seen the clips.
If I asked Lindsay Elizabeth Hand's mom,
Yeah.
the name of my podcast,
Yeah.
she'd say, "You want episode titles?"
Oh wow.
She's
wow. That's sweet.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that my parents couldn't find a podcast. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get that?
that's
How do you
nice
do it?
though.
Yeah, how do you?
That's
Yeah,
nice.
there is an advantage.
Yeah.
to it, I suppose. Yeah, there's a trade-off. Yeah.
Bob Foss, very thankful for you. I'm thankful for Dave Colombo, who edits these clips.
yeah.
And he's also a very good stand-up comedian. He opened for me in Grand Rapids in Michigan.
Oh,
and
I'll be there in 3 weeks.
yeah, I saw. What venue? Not
so-
Dr. Grins.
No. There's a bunch of like corporate events and things that hire me. I just did an event for the mayor of Grand Rapids. Actually, I did their holiday event. Actually, so yeah, I do a lot out. For some reason, I do a lot
Rapids.
in Michigan. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Michigan, and North Carolina are like big spots for me. The
Interesting.
Carolinas are big too.
So part of it is like for me to bring an opener on the road, I'm still not making that much money, and so it's if I can get a hotel room for the opener, that feels like when I make the offer. But so we had different flights. Like I booked it all, and then he booked it after. So his flight got canceled Sunday morning. There were no other flights for him to come back to New York. So he stayed an extra night in Grand Rapids, and then the next day, flight was canceled again.
Oh my.
Flight was canceled
God.
again, and like let me tell you. If I was stuck in Grand Rapids for 2 more days,
Wait, you buying a hotel room?
you buy a hotel room. You wouldn't want to speak to me. I probably would cry. The second night that I was staying in Grand Rapids. So I wrote him, and this is how I want to just say like how sweet of like a human being he is. Shit. So if I texted you from the airport, I'd be like, fucking Delta. I'd be tweeting, fuck Delta, fuck the CEO. His name is this. This is where his kids go to school. And instead, I wrote him the first day. I said, oh my God, why did they cancel? He said, one of those vague, unforeseen circumstances things. It was really okay. I just felt bad for the clerk who helped me, who was really overworked and couldn't find me another flight and had her supervisor really on her ass because of how long the line was getting. It was a stressful morning for her. Let me tell you something.
He's either very kind or doesn't fly enough. That is
Sure. To me, I'm like, oh,
Maybe you learned something. Maybe you learned something today about yourself.
You don't even pretend. Don't even pretend that's who you are, Russell Daniels. Don't even pretend.
Every time I go to Grand Rapids, I swear to God, it happens. Like, not every time, but like 1 in 3 times, I do get stuck there. It's the only place where I get canceled flights, and I don't know why. It's usually for no reason. And I'm always like, and so I have a friend who lives out there, and I call him, and I'll be like, okay, I'm flying out tomorrow. He's like, all right. And then he'll see like his phone ring, and he picks it up, just laughing, like cackling every time. He's like, ha 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 ha. And like he goes, you got to buy property here, buddy. You're never getting out. It's like an awful like Twilight Zone episode. I'm dreading it this next time. I'm always like, oh my God. It's usually like the last show of the season before I go like on a break too. Like, oh, I'm gonna have a month off. This is gonna be great. And it'll be a lot of times it'll be like, oh, I'll pick up one extra show. I do one more show, and then I'm like, why did I do this? And I have been stuck there before for 2 days, like 2 days extra. Do you know what there is? There's a lot of beer there. So like, but you can get drunk solidly for like 1 day, and then day 2, you're like, what do I do now?
And did you text your agent? I just feel bad for the worker at the front gate. That's where my mind is right now with her and her family.
So you're plugging his...
So I'm saying he's, first of all, great stand-up comedian and just really good human being. And if you're in New York, book him on your shows. He deserves to be even more in the circuit than he is.
Was there another plug you wanted to make?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Hey.
See, I remembered.
Well, that's the plugs. This is the blessing.
Oh, my God.
He was a blessing.
So sorry.
Do you have a blessing for us?
I do. Tiny backstory before, so it just makes sense. So I have like one of the largest curiosities collections in the country.
Okay.
Like Ripley's Believe It or Not, if you've ever been to like one of their museums. So like a portion of my office is built like that. And I have like one of the top 25 largest in North America.
Yeah.
And there was a piece I've wanted for years, and it's just hard to come by. It's this tribal piece, and it's rare and really cool, and usually very, very expensive. They're like in the 10 grand range.
From where about? What area of the
Papua New
world?
Guinea.
Okay.
But most of them were destroyed because the way that the tribe who had built them would use them is they were actually an act that would often destroy them as part of the tradition. So not many of them survive anymore.
Interesting.
And so I found one at an auction in the Netherlands that was going for like $500, which is it's insane. Wow. And this is a museum quality piece. I mean, so many of the pieces in my collection I actually loan out to museums, and it's what the horror show is semi based on the collection. So, so anyway, they would only ship to within the EU, and I couldn't get it shipped to me though. The auction house doesn't ship outside of the EU, and I was like, oh no. That's one of the reasons I think it was going so low is people just didn't know what it was. And so I was like, I found out about it 12 hours before the auction went on.
Wow.
And so I was calling everybody I knew like quickly to be like, and it sounds like you're a drug dealer. Be like, can I get a package sent to you? You don't have to open it. You just have to put a new label on it and then send it to me here in the U.S. Like, so people like, they're all like, huh, what is this about?
Your house will be haunted until I pick it up.
And so, and a lot of people, like, the people I knew were like, oh, I'm in Thailand right now on vacation. Another one was like, I'll be back. If you can have them hold it for a week, like, I'll be back in Spain. And then I finally found a couple of friends in England who were like, yeah, we can take it. And so I went to do it, and come to find out, because the UK left the EU, they were like, oh, we won't ship it to England. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I had like a half hour left, and a friend of a friend got somebody who I had met her one time in passing, and she was like, she lives in the Netherlands, and we found out that like she like lives down like 20 minutes from the auction house.
Yeah.
So I was like, could you? And she was like, yeah, totally.
I'll pick it up.
And she went and picked it up, and it's heavy and it's big, and she dragged it to the post office and packaged it up and shipped it to me in the States. And I just received it, and it was super awesome of her.
Wow.
And her name is Eowyn, and I really don't know her well. And she just kicks ass, and like I owe her big, and that made
That's
my heart
amazing.
super happy.
That's a killer
So,
blessing. I gotta say, we haven't had
Yeah.
a blessing that cool.
So
It's usually just like, my father-in-law, thanks for the timeshare. So this is coming out May 16th. Is there anything you want to plug?
We've got touring's always good. Just check out, I've been told I need to be more active on social media, and I have not.
It's gotta be tough. Like, I post jokes, I write new jokes.
Yeah.
Magic is punchlines in a way. There's a certain degree of like the surprise of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But with magic, I feel like it's even more so.
Well, the real problem is that I find is that with comedy and music, like, people will like comedy. It's kind of funny to me. Like, I love seeing a show, but like once I've seen the show, I don't really want to hear that joke again. Like, I know where it's going.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, tell that joke again that
Yeah.
I saw you do
all the time.
People are not like that with magic. They're like, oh, I saw you do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that miracle not good enough
Yeah.
for
They
you?
only want to see it again
Yeah.
so they can catch you do the thing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, what do you do? So you constantly have to make new material. And so because of that, I don't really allow filming at my shows.
Sure.
They can do short clips. I don't really post a lot of stuff. And you can either do that or you can do personal life stuff. Feels a little invasive. Like, I don't like that I have to, like, you either have to give so much of yourself up or performance. You're about to say.
I saw one of my favorite magicians, David Blaine, had a great show in Las Vegas, and you had to put the phone in a box before the show.
Yeah. And I think that's the way it should be, right? Like, that you shouldn't really. And also, I believe that I'm a guy who's very much like, do a meet and greet photo, do a photo before the show, right after the show.
Yeah.
But like, put your phone away during the show. Just enjoy the show. Like, I hate how everybody, I mean, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Where everybody, so, I mean, my God, in the off-Broadway shows, I can't believe they take phones out. I'm like, seriously? Like, we're all.
Yeah, sometimes it's part of the marketing. It's hard to.
Yeah.
You
That's the thing, though. At the same time, it's a double-edged
balance.
sword. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I know. Look.
And you know about double-edged
I know.
swords.
I mean, you guys are going to get a clip here, and that, like, the clip will get more views than the
Yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
more listens than the podcast will.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it famous. I mean, that's how I see your stuff.
Yeah.
So I do get it. And so I've kind of been like pushed to be like, hey, you need to start doing more of that. So like, I have not been posting a lot on YouTube and on Instagram. I don't do TikTok, but I do YouTube and I do Instagram. If you really want to show me some love, sign up on those. And I swear to you, I will start pumping out more content because I just have to. So.
And what's the name of the channel?
Yeah.
Or just
shoot,
Matt
what
the
is
Knife?
it? If you just MTK Show is the Instagram for Matt the Knife. I'm amazed how many people are like, what does MTK stand for? I'm like, oh, wow. MTK Show is the Instagram, and I think it's the MTK Show. Google Matt the Knife, go to the webpage. You'll see the little boxes. Click on the little boxes. Instagram and YouTube are the ones to care about. Those are the ones I care about. If people actually DM me, I am the one who responds unless you're super creepy. And it just takes me a while if I reply. But yeah, check out a show. That's really what it comes down to, is check out the shows. But really, I'd love it if more people got to me on Instagram, because then I'll have a reason to actually post more, because I've been pretty bad about it, especially since COVID. It was Yeah.
Russell, what do you want to plug?
Follow me on Instagram at Russell J. Daniels, and come see Titanic at the Daryl Roth Theater.
Amazing. For me, I'll be headlining Comics Mohegan Sun May 18th through May 20th. Going to my brother's graduation. Then coming out to my brother's graduation. Then I will be at Cleveland, Ohio at Hilarities, May 26th and May 27th. And then the weekend after that in Indianapolis at Helium, June 2nd, June 3rd. And I'm trying to plug some more of my friends, my stand-up comedian friends. Jason Salman, who did our AMP show on Amazon.
Yeah.
He has a new special out called Biscuits and Gravity. It comes out April 13th, so it's already out. It's for free on YouTube at 4x3. Jason Salmon, Salmon. Link in the description. Fucking A, man. I hope we have you back. I have so many more. I want to hear about sword swallowing and so many other things.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no
Can you
worries.
say real quick,
Yeah.
when that thing came
You
out?
can always bring me back another time.
I
If
would love
people
to.
like it, bring me back. Yeah.
Oh, they'll love it. Those
Or else.
those magician tapes that came out when I was a kid in the 90s, Magician Reveals All the
Valentino.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Is he someone magicians would kill if they could?
Yeah, a lot of people were really, really mad at him. But here's the funny thing, is that so not all of it was real. Like, some of it was lies. So like some of the techniques, like if there was like a couple of techniques where if you tried them, like, oh, that wouldn't work. Like, it's really, some of them are like really obvious too. You kind of go, wait, what? Like, if you just thought through it, you'd go, that can't be right. And it's not. Like, some of them were absolutely right. It was never a thing that really bothered, like, that, I mean, obviously I wasn't old enough then, but like now, if somebody was to go watch it, like people are like, oh, I've seen those. I'm like, okay, it's just nothing I do, so I don't care.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
His excuse at the time was something like, what was it? It was like, I'm
needed
trying to
money.
push the magic industry forward. We've relied too much on old magic. But really, I think he was paid like $1 million or something. He was paid
When
a
I
lot
was a
of
kid,
money.
I owned them on VHS.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to sign us off real quick for our final thing, could you just really say, "I want my mommy"?
I'm gonna have to make that a hard line and say no.
This is the downside.
But you need to change it if you would like to win. Now, did you see how it didn't fire out? That means one of three things. One, I'm a very good liar, which I am. However, I'm not lying right now. Two, that I'm a sociopath, in which case I would not have a physiological response to an emotional stimuli. I've been tested. It's not that. Or three, I am telling you the truth, which it absolutely is. You should change now. I don't think you're going to, but you are welcome to do so. Would you like to change?
No,
You sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Cool. Okay, we have one more try. Now listen, this time I will not even influence you. Just look it over, whichever one you want. I won't even influence you at all. 50-50 chance. There. No influence at all. That one?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna make this interesting. I'm gonna get some. So the problem is, right, when you're doing this game is that when you think about it, you're not like, there's no real, there's nothing like on the table. And when there's nothing on the table, you don't feel any real pressure. So like, these are real $100 bills. They are not magic. You can see they've got the watermark and the holographic thing. You can win all or part of these. You can win all or part of these if you play correctly. So here's the deal. In a moment, I'm going to say begin. Oh, I see one for the bigger one. I guess size does matter. So here's the deal. I'm going to say begin. I'm going to pause. I'm going to say 1. I'm going to take that away. I'm going to pause again. I'm going to say 2. I'm going to take that away. You look so irritated. I'm going to pause again. I'm going to say 3. I'm going to take that away. And if you have chosen correctly and you win, you will get all $300 free and clear. It's not life-changing money, but it's better than what the clubs in New York pay.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a lot of ramen. So $300 free and clear. That is a good podcast deck, right? Now,
That's for sure.
Alternatively, though, if you stay there and you lose, you get nothing. Okay. However, if you change and that is the winner, you will get whatever is left on the table when you change if it wins. So in other words, if you're going to change, you should do it sooner. It makes it so I don't give you a lot of time to think about it. Because if I go 1, 2, and then you decide to change and it wins, you only get 100. So if you're going to change, you should change right away, right? Does that make sense? However, if you change and that's a loser, you get nothing. Do you understand? Okay. One last thing. Do you play any chess?
I know how to play.
Do you know the rule about when you take your finger off the piece? What is it?
It's done.
It's done. The turn is over. Similarly, from this moment on, if you pick up your finger for any reason, you have to change and you cannot go back. So be absolutely certain with your decision. Do you understand all these rules as they have been presented to you? Okay. In that case, I'm not going to give you any more time. Begin. 1. If you're going to change, do it sooner rather than later. 2. Less chance. 3. Don't take that camera away from where you're pointing it.
Oh.
Hold on. Just in case you think it was sleight of hand or you were scammed in some way. Pick it up. Pick it up. Pick it up. And read it out loud.
This
to
is
the camera.
going to piss me off. He will stay.
You.
Thanks, buddy. That's very fun. This is the downside.
Amazing.
Thanks, man.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to The Downside
The downside.
with Gianmarco Soresi.